I have a gavel. I'll hit something with it. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call to order the Merrimack Planning Board for June 1st, 2021. Let's see, we've got announcements, I'm sure. Our next meeting after tonight is June 15th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in this Matthew Thornton room. Let me remind everyone to make sure your microphones are turned on and you speak clearly into it. And also, please make sure you introduce yourself for the record, clearly identifying yourself. There's Lynn. Let's see. Let's appoint Nelson into a voting position for Alistair's position. With that in mind, we are up to our Planning and Zoning Administrator's report. Tim, do you have anything for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. In your packet, you'll find a memo dated May 20th from myself regarding the two projects for which we need a regional impact determination. Both are on tonight's agenda. The first is the lot line the 3-lot subdivision for BM Investments, and secondly, the 57 to 59 DW Highway LLC site plan. Staff recommends that the board determine both of these projects are not of regional impact as they do not meet the criteria.
What's the will of the board with respect to the staff's recommendation? Nelson.
Chairman, I would make a motion that both of these.
Oh, turn your microphone on.
My mic is on, but it's not close enough. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to agree that with staff that both of these applications do not meet the criteria for regional impact, and therefore they are not in regional impact. One is the BLM Investments, and the other is the 5759 Daniel Webster Highway.
Excellent. Thank you,
I'll
Nelson.
second.
Is there a second? Second by Lynn Christensen. If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? 5-0-0 for that one. Tim, anything else for your report?
Just one other thing that if it's not quite out there yet, it'll be very shortly. Sharon Haynes, who's been my part-time secretary in the department for the last 4 years, is actually going to be moving on and up to general government in the next few weeks. So we will have a change in vacancy in the part-time position in the department. So we're looking to potentially look at the applicants that did not get hired for the general government position. There may be a few candidates in there we can interview and take a look at, but otherwise, failing that, I'll be advertising for that position in the coming weeks. Sharon's been a phenomenal employee for the department over the last 4 years. Anytime I can hold on to a part-time employee for that length of time, it's been great, and she really learned a lot over the course of the 4 years and has been a great asset for the community, especially with her work organizing and helping out the Conservation Commission over the last 4 years. So congratulations to her, and on to another hiring process for me.
Absolutely. Well, wish her well on our behalf, and thank you for all the things that she's done for us. And I guess we'll still encounter her in the general government, and good luck in your hiring process. I can also share with the board that an applicant for a position on our board was interviewed last week and will be considered by the town council on Thursday. I believe it's our habit not to necessarily discuss their name or identity until the town council has had their opportunity to do so, although it may appear on their written agenda and identify who it is.
I know who it is because I recruited them.
Excellent. Good
The
job.
rest of you need to be recruiting.
Yes.
Please, please, please.
Absolutely. Does seem like an excellent candidate. So we look forward to that. I think by our next meeting, we'll have a seated additional member of our board. Okay. Anything else by members of the board for the staff during the Planning and Zoning Administrator's report? Seeing none, let's go on to item 3 on our agenda. Before we do that, Tim, are there items tonight that are going to be continued that we should share with the public?
Yes, item number 7, the 57 to 59 DW Highway LLC, which is the 107,000 square foot manufacturing building and 66,000 square foot addition at 59 and 57 DW, have requested continuance to July 6th, and there should be a copy of the email from their attorney to Robert in the packet.
Okay, so if anybody here from the public is interested in that item, you need not expend your Tuesday evening waiting for it. We'll see you next time. Okay, with that in mind, item 3 on our agenda is Garrett Burby as the applicant and 385 DW Highway LLC as the owner. This is continued review for consideration of a waiver of full site plan review to permit a mixed-use development consisting of a single-family dwelling and contractor storage yard. The parcel is located at 385 Daniel Webster Highway in the C1 General Commercial, Aquifer Conservation, and Elderly Housing Overlay Districts. It is tax map 4D3, lot 90, case planning board 2021-10. It is continued from our April 6th planning board meeting. Tim, is there anything that we need to know before we hear from the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. In your package, you'll find the memo from Robert with some updated information in the background. This project, as you may not recall, resulted as a result of an enforcement action going back almost a year to last August. The applicant was successful in obtaining a variance from the zoning board to allow the mixed use of the property. However, has not yet obtained the site plan approval to allow for the mixed use to be legally permitted on the site. They were back before the board in April. The board had a fairly lengthy discussion with the applicant about the applicability of the current regulations to the site and whether or not it was appropriate to waive full site plan review. The applicant was given a continuance to tonight. Based on the conversation I've had with Robert is the applicant did not contact staff until May 26th to ask what was needed to provide for the meeting on June 1st. We expect that a revised plan may be presented to the board tonight. Staff would be unable to make any comment on any plans submitted tonight as we have not had the opportunity to review those, but it is up to the board, obviously, to determine how you want to move forward with this at this point.
Thank you, Tim. Is the applicant here? Come forward. Oh, you can sit, you can stand, whatever you like. You want the table? Thank you, Garrett. Tell us where we are with your proposal.
Yeah, so I have a letter to the council explaining clarifications of the discussion.
Is that letter available in our package, or are you giving that to us now, or
Yeah, so I have it now.
you want to pass it out to us? Bring it over.
How many?
One for everybody.
I think I need one.
If you don't have enough copies, we'll figure out a way to make it work.
One more.
So there's an extra one here, Len, this, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Proceed when you're ready. Tell us what we're looking at.
I have a letter, dated June 1st, 2021. Dear planning board, please accept my petition to waive full site plan and permit me to use my property as a single-family dwelling. Sorry, would you mind going? Representative Davis here?
Touch the button on the front of the microphone to turn it on.
I can speak loud.
Yeah.
Hello?
Bring it, touch the button where it says push, and that light should come on really bright green.
Hello.
There you go. Now give it to us.
All right. Dear Planning Board, please accept my petition to waive full site plan and to permit me to use my property as a single-family dwelling. The parcel is located at 385 DW Highway in the C1 General Commercial, Aquifer Conservation and Elderly Housing Overlay Districts, tax map 4D-3, lot 090, in the case number. I do not plan to use this as a commercial storage yard as implied by the community development team. If the board deems it reasonable to categorize my parcel as a home-based business with use of the site as listed below, I would be pleased. I propose to use the 385 DW Highway property as my home-based HVAC office. Any structure on site shall be used for personal residential use only, with the exception of my designated room within my house to be used as an office. Inventory storage is limited to our service vehicles and is otherwise stored off-site. I currently have 2 service vehicles with a plan to reserve a total of 6 commercial service van spaces and 2 residential spaces on the existing parking lot. I currently have 2 employees that ride along with me until they prove themselves reliable to drive one of our company vehicles regularly. I would like permission to keep my 20 by 30 shelter until I'm able to erect a permanent 30 by 30 detached residential garage to store my personal belongings. As this was the whole reason I approached the community development in the first place. All HVAC fabrication and related contractor functions or work shall be performed off-site. We are not open to the public nor entertain customers on site. Office hours are from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m., 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, in which I may have office staff assist me during those times. I shall comply with all property notes as stated upon my site plan.
Okay, do you want to talk about the other things that you provided to us, or?
Sure. I have revised a site plan. This was presented to the zoning board meeting. I wasn't aware that I could use this as for tonight as a presentation. So I allocated those notes, and I wasn't able to adequately print the general notes on that print, so I did the best I could to kind of fill it out for you legibly. So I printed out a separate general notes section to specify all the existing general notes on that plan, with the addition to how I plan to use my property. And then the final item I have is the community development was telling me they don't recognize HVAC as a home-based business. But 6 Shady Lane, one of my competitor, amigos, whatever you want to call them, friends. So he's in a residential neighborhood. He uses his property as a single-family home, but he has an HVAC business, and he actually has approval from the town zoning and planning. So I'm looking to have the same fair treatment as this individual, except for my property houses more parking space. All I wish to do is have a few vehicles, up to 6 commercial vehicles, 2 residential, and that's really all I'm looking to do. I need a place to park my vehicles, and all work is, as I said, will be done off-site.
Okay. So let me ask a few questions just to make sure I understand what I have.
Mhm.
You gave me a page with general notes on it.
Mhm.
Are these replacing the notes that are on this thing, or?
Yeah, I believe that those aren't as legible as I'd like to. I would like to have produced to you a document that had those on it, but I wasn't able to with the time frame that I had. I was waiting for community development to reach back out to me from the April 6th meeting. I recalled them saying they'd follow up with me, which never happened, so I apologize that I was a little bit delayed in getting you your information.
I understand. So the notes, the general notes page, the single page with everything typed on it, is a different set of notes than these other notes?
Yeah, just a different font, different format. No, it's the same set of notes.
Well, no, they're not the same.
How so?
Well, let's
Then I
quickly look at 12. 12 on the one page says only low phosphate, slow release fertilizer. 12 on the other one talks about plowed snow from the facility's driveway, et cetera.
Yeah, I had a correction with the general notes. The general notes, as I handed to you separately, are the ones that should be on this page.
Okay.
May I interrupt, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Briefly. Out of curiosity, it appears that the design firm that prepared this plan has been whited out. Has the design firm that prepared this plan been notified that this is being used?
This,
This plan that you just submitted tonight, underneath where it says owner of record and applicant, that box underneath, if I recognize the formatting of this sheet, would probably be a Keach Nordstrom plan, am I correct?
you're correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have they been notified that you're utilizing their plan for this?
They were notified back when they presented it back in November of last year to the zone board. I'm not looking to hire them any further. They wasted my time up until this point. They never followed back out to me, so as far as I'm concerned,
The main reason I bring that up is because if you're using their plan, they have to be notified as an abutter as part of this application.
okay. I'm not aware of that.
Did they sign this plan when you submitted it
did
to
not.
the? To the
There was
ZBA?
no signature on record for this plan.
This was a zoning board exhibit plan. There was no requirement for any professional endorsements at that stage.
Okay. So we'll have to deal with the notification of them separately. Walk me through what's on this plan and what I should be looking at.
Well, the whole reason why we approached this initially was to have a detached garage on site. That was the intention of using this property, so I could store my vehicles. So you see existing conditions of the site with the proposed two-story garage addition, 30 by 30 square foot within its setbacks. So everything else is existing but that detached garage.
Okay. So I know that the ZBA doesn't actually have as much attention to some of these things as we do. So I want to go through some questions, make sure I understand your detached garage.
Sure.
Where are the doors for the
Well-
garage?
They're facing Wright Avenue.
Facing Wright Avenue, okay. Now, the wall facing Wright Avenue is also overlaying what looks like an existing shed. Is the existing shed going away?
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't say that.
All right, it looks like we've got at least 4 different kinds of texture indicated here. Let's go through them. At the top of the page, it looks like cobblestone, kind of round circles in a strip around the north part of the yard. What does that indicate?
That was from the previous occupant, the dog grooming facility. They had put pebbles down for their dog grooming business. So
So-
I haven't removed that, that's still there.
So that's existing on the site. There's some kind of gravel or pebbles or something in that area.
That's correct.
Okay. The next thing that looks a little bit like a honeycomb, which is underneath the garage and kind of almost all the way around it. What is that?
I believe that's gravel.
Is that what's on the site now?
Yes,
All of that area is gravel. There's no loam or seed or grass or
that's
anything growing?
correct.
Okay. Then there's some square next to the building or closer to the building that says, that has around the ramp and the deck and all the way to the south corner.
Yes.
What's that?
That was AstroTurf, which has been removed.
Okay. What's replacing it now?
Dirt.
Okay. And then some more of the honeycombed area over next to the building. What's that?
Facing the adjacent to the building.
Yes. Between the AstroTurf and the building.
Gravel. Gravel.
Okay, more gravel.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what's your intention for what those surfaces will be when you're finished?
I am content leaving it a maintenance-free yard, so I appreciate the gravel and the pebbles that are existing. I like to leave that as is.
Okay. Does your proposed detached 2-story garage have a driveway or some vehicle path leading to it?
No driveway.
Will it have a driveway?
No.
All right, that's not a garage. It's some other kind of building maybe, but it's not a garage if it doesn't have any way for vehicles to get to it.
I can drive on the dirt, the earth in front of it. Doesn't have to be, there's actually, I can put down repurposed asphalt, but I'm not looking to pave that section.
Okay, so you want to do the reclaimed asphalt in that section.
I think that would be reasonable.
Where's the edge of your pavement now?
If you
Or
w-
your driveway, or whatever surface you have for your driveway.
May I point to this picture and show you on the page?
Of course, you can point to whatever you like.
So-
Which picture are we looking at?
This drawing,
Okay,
and the existing parking lot goes this line here, and it juts over to at a sharp angle, and it goes back towards the building. That's
okay.
all existing parking lot
What is the surface of the parking lot made of?
pavement.
Okay, so there's pavement here around to the building. Okay. Now, you mentioned a home-based business kind of a thing. There's several things in your proposal that would make this more than a home-based business. The number of vehicles, the number of employees, and the sign out front are
And the
all
zone.
inconsistent with it.
Home occupation is not permitted in the commercial district
Okay.
because it's commercially zoned.
Yep.
It's not intended to be residential.
I wasn't even tuned into that piece, but even if it was permitted, what you're proposing isn't a home-based business. It's a multi-use or concurrent residential and commercial use of the building. What space in your building is your office or commercial space that you were talking about using?
So the house is, I believe, 24 by 30. And if I bisect that building in half, there's a stairwell. So I don't have an accurate drawing to represent that for you, but there is a 10 by 10 room on the first floor that is used for my office.
Okay. And then vehicle storage outside.
Correct. I'm completely content using this as a commercial, what do we say here? Mixed use, however that works. I just was trying to impress upon the board that, for me, this is what, home-based business. I just wanted to use the parking lot.
No,
As such.
understand. You're using it in a way that's that's different than a typical home-based business in a residential neighborhood. I don't know about the fellow whose picture you sent us here, what they got going on or what they're approved to do. And frankly, they're not before us, so it's not for us to dig into what he's got going on. But more than one vehicle, more than one employee, a sign for a residential home-based business is 6 square feet. I don't know how big the one you have is there, but it's far, far bigger than that. And those are some of the differences. I could have a comfort level with this building behind your existing structure being, personal use, yard equipment, whatever you want to put in your garage, and understanding what it would be. I'm still kind of thinking through this idea of waiving full site plan review, or what information would be needed that we would gain from site plan review that we're not gaining now. And I want to think through that a little bit. Let me open it up for any of the other colleagues on the board to have some discussion or questions about what's going on here. Nelson, you have?
Well, yeah, I'm totally confused by this plan that's been submitted tonight. I don't know what's there. By looking at the plan, I can't tell what's there and what's going to be added. Let's say the as-is condition and then what's being added. And I think we're missing a lot of information. You've answered with questions, but there's no indication on this plan that some of those things are as you say. So I'm not very happy with this plan. I'm not ready to accept it as a plan that we can make any kind of approvals on.
Yeah, I think the questions that I was asking were getting towards a list of things that would have to be added to the plan to identify what's there, what's added, what's going to go away. And I was just trying to lead through some of that discussion. I'm still not convinced about the waiver of full site plan review either. Are there any exterior lights in your parking lot or lighting that's on site?
On site, no.
Okay.
Just against what's attached to the building for illumination.
Are there lights attached to the building that shine into the parking lot?
Yes, sir.
Like floodlights and things? What do you got? Where are they?
May I point to the picture?
Yeah, of course.
This side of the building, in the front corner, is illuminating this whole area. here, and in the backyard, adjacent to the shed, I have illumination of this area here, and in the front yard facing the parking,
Okay.
the main front entrance.
Is
This
your
house.
sign on site illuminated internally or
Yes, sir.
internally illuminated? Okay. So I want to make sure that I'm not sort of going down the path of making a mountain out of a molehill. I mean, it is fairly simple to say that a site on DW Highway will have a few commercial vehicles parked in it, in front of it, and that's not earth-shattering. At the same time, we still need to sort of have some of the basic elements of the plan, have notes that are consistent between the two documents, and have staff have a chance to review it and look to see does it comply with various parts of the regulation, or are there parts where we would have to have some attention to whether we would either waive that requirement or ask you to make some changes. Tim, did we accept this as complete last time or no?
You did not.
Did
If
not.
you go to the, I believe it's the second page of Robert's memo at the bottom, we're offering multiple recommendations for completeness. If the board disagrees with staff and believes a waiver is appropriate, you could accept it as complete. If you disagree with the staff but determine a waiver is appropriate for this project, but you find that the revised submittal is acceptable, then you continue, is not acceptable, you continue again to July 6th. Or if you agree with staff that the waiver is not applicable, you can continue both the application acceptance and public hearing, or vote to find the application incomplete for the reasons listed in his memo.
Okay.
Ultimately, the significant things that would typically be required for a site plan in a commercial district like this is an existing condition plan showing what's there today, the improvement plan, including your drainage and grading information, the stormwater management report, the landscaping plan, the illumination plan, and a traffic impact analysis.
A fair number of those things, I think, are reasonable as a waiver of full site plan review to set aside some of those kinds of things. However, I feel like we just need to have the basics on a plan to show what's there today, what's going away, what's being added to it, a set of notes that's consistent, enough to really analyze what it is that you're proposing for us to do. You were last before us on April 6th, and here we are on June 1st. Did you supply these plans or this information to the staff ahead of tonight?
Well, I was waiting for correspondence from the community development team to know how to address this tonight.
Okay, did you reach out to them to find out
I did.
what to expect? When did
Yeah,
you
and they
reach out
had,
to them?
by the time I realized that there was a clock, I guess I missed it by a week. I was waiting to, I was assuming I was going to hear from them sooner, and April 6th meeting is what I was relying on for information. That Robert Price specifically said he'll follow up with me, which I expected that to happen, and it didn't. So therefore, I reached out to him on the 25th via email, just trying to clarify what I needed to do for tonight. That's when I realized that I missed a deadline to present this to you sooner via, digital copy.
Okay. So I don't recall the exact discussion on April 6th, but I've had the discussion enough times to know that part of the expectation from us is that you would contact the town and say, here's my next iteration of a plan, what do you think? And somebody would say, hey, why don't you draw what's existing and what this gravel is and the crosshatch and the thing that looks like cobblestones, why don't you label all that stuff? And then the staff would show you how to do that. And then they'd ask you questions about, showing where the edge of pavement is, or showing that the shed is gonna go away. And that you were gonna have a proactive role in this, and that's usually the follow-up. And Robert's comments, I'm not sure Robert was here that night, remember if he was or not, but
He was.
the usual comment is, I'm available to you to work with you on these kinds of things. Not that Robert's gonna take responsibility for your plan. And I think the staff continues to be available for you to work that way, but you've gotta be proactive and work with them. That's the expectation, that you're going to, let them help you refine your plan to get it to something that's got all the details and information that we need on it, that's got a consistent set of notes, that's got notification of abutters. The notification to Keach is a stopping point, because if there's a defect in notification, we don't have a choice but to punt you to the next meeting and let you give notice to whoever the parties are that need notice. But that's sort of where ownership of the application and the process would have paid off for you to, be proactive with this and working with them and asking them what's up and what's the next thing. What Tim noticed right off in a minute on the plan would have been brought to your attention, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then you would have had plenty of time to mail a letter to Keach. Do other members of the board have any comments or questions? I feel like we're gonna ultimately have to continue it again to allow time for correct notification, for staff analysis.
Because of if this is being submitted, which it has already been submitted to the board as materials from the applicant, you have no choice but to require re-notification of abutters and a new hearing to start.
Yep. So getting the abutter notification right, getting the staff analysis, kind of cleaning up some of these, low-hanging fruit on the plan, making all of the notes match each other. Some of the ones, it looks like you've in the new ones, you've maybe refined some of the old ones a little bit and changed some of the approach to it. And even when there's a simple one that doesn't seem necessarily related, you got to offer some explanation for why, for example, the existing note 12 that talks about where plowed snow will be put and stored and all of that doesn't exist anymore. Where are you going to put your snow? What's the plan? Why did that one go away? And it may be from your viewpoint that it was just a simpler way to manage your property, but the existing note from 1985, when it was voted on, is a binding requirement on the property that still holds sway today. And if you want us to offer some relief from it, you got to explain to us why we should. With that in mind,
Could I get an
board members.
idea from the board what specifically you're looking for? Are you looking for a separate existing conditions plan and an improvement plan so that Robert knows where to start with from direction from the board? I think what I'm seeing is there's some willingness to go to a waiver full site plan, but it's conditional based on the type of information that's provided to the board.
that's all correct. I don't necessarily have a preference for one piece of paper versus 2 pieces of paper for existing and proposed, but enough clear labeling on the plan. And if the attempt to clearly label it becomes really kind of too busy, then that's where you'd make that decision to have 2 pieces of paper instead of 1. But we've certainly seen enough examples of people able to do it on 1 piece of paper, especially since all we're adding is the garage. Is your garage going to have electric connected to it?
Yes.
Any plumbing or water?
No.
Okay, good. Glad not to have plumbing. I don't know whether we've got any requirements for showing where the electrical connection would be on these.
Not
It's
for
full site
purposes
plan
of,
review,
no.
but a waiver we would not.
The waiver you wouldn't, no.
Okay. Mr. Burby, does one of your notes talk about the use of the garage building as being only for residential / personal use?
Well, I left that as a general note. Specifically calling out the garage, I don't believe so.
Okay. Since that's kind of a key representation that you're making for us that says this is not commercial, I'm not gonna put my HVAC stuff in there, that should be called out in a note that says, here's what I'm gonna do in my garage.
I just generalized it, saying
did you
all
generalize it?
HVAC fabrication and related is number 16, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I just called it out as a general note, just because we don't use the site as contractor, related work. So I was just simplifying that.
okay, so number 16 says any work proposed within the Daniel Webster Highway right-of-way shall require a driveway permit from the Town of Merrimack Public Works Department Highway Division.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. So the plan, you're looking at the
Oh, the other
the
16.
site plan, I'm sorry, the general notes on this page,
Okay.
the attachment.
All HVA fabrication and related contractor work shall be performed off-site. Okay, that's a good note and an important one for some of the representations you've made. It's a little different than the use of the garage. If you were storing equipment in the garage or inventory, it wouldn't violate note number 16. But since you're telling me that the garage is a personal, residential, private use, then there should be a note that says that.
Okay.
Since we haven't accepted it as complete, there's no need for a public hearing at this point to hear any abutters' comments.
There's no action the board needs to take due to the defect and notification.
Okay.
The applicant will need to reapply for an upcoming meeting deadline, re-notify abutters accordingly.
Yeah, we don't have to pick a date specific. It's
Nope,
all up to
it's
you
up
for
to
when
him.
you're ready and able to do notification.
Given the
Is
fact that this is resulting from enforcement action, I'd prefer that the board give some guidance in terms of the length of time you'd like to give Mr. Burby to follow through and submit that application.
The deadline for the next June meeting is today or tomorrow, so that's obviously not gonna happen. The first meeting in July is the 4th or the 5th or the 3rd or
I can give
something
you
like that.
deadline dates in just a moment, Mr. Chairman.
First meeting in July is the 6th. The second meeting in July is the 20th.
For the July 6th meeting, June 15 is the application deadline. For the July 20th meeting, June 29th would be the application deadline.
I feel the sort of the two tensions of trying to work quickly to get this resolved as an enforcement action, but also I want to impress upon the applicant the idea that he should spend some time with your department, going over this plan and meeting with them, and then going home and doing some homework. And
I'd
bringing
be
it back.
satisfied with submission for either the July 20th or August 3rd meeting.
July 20th meeting would be due
June
July
29.
6th.
June 29 would be the deadline for July 20.
Okay, so that would give you all of June to meet with the department, get your stuff fixed up, and get on our agenda for the July 20th meeting. Would that work for you? Mr. Burby?
Sure, yes.
Any other members of the board have any questions or disagreement? Doesn't require a vote since
Well,
it's,
no, I just want to be sure that Mr. Burpee understands that what is here, from my point of view, doesn't satisfy showing what is there today, the pavement, how much is paved and what isn't, and what
The-
will be. What? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, yeah.
I would simplify my approach to the full site plan review or not in the notion that work with the staff so that you've got something that we can accept. And on July 20th, we will vote on a waiver or not. And if you don't get a waiver, you're hiring an engineer to do this. And so work really hard with the staff so that you don't have to do that. If we're sort of back on July 20th with a mix mash of incomplete stuff, then we won't have any choice but to say we can't waive full site plan review, do a full site plan, and you don't want to be there. Yeah, I know you don't. You've said you don't, right?
You're correct. May I ask
so-
a question?
Yes.
So the specific points that you identified tonight, is that somewhere I can see that, so I can know how to address it?
As far as what's required on a
Yes,
site plan?
because I think that's my whole disconnect. I didn't know where to turn to for that information.
Okay, so I can certainly, we can talk it through and write it down, or maybe Tim's got some notes, but honestly, walk into Tim's office with your plan in hand, planning to spend a half an hour with an
With Robert,
appointment with
yep.
him, and let him go through it.
Yep.
And point. to
Ultimately, these will be outlined in the minutes for the meeting, which should be done in about a week or so.
Yeah.
Just for the board's clarification, I did just clarify that the plan definitely is a Keach plan, so Keach would be the correct place to notify.
Okay, yeah, so you want to notify Keach Nordstrom that you're submitting their plan? Or they get a butter notification, essentially. Okay, so the resource to figure out how to check all the boxes that we need done on this is you meeting with Tim or Robert or whoever's in his office that can help you. If you set aside some time, probably better not to do it as a walk-in, call them and tell them you're coming at a particular time. They'll set aside some time on their schedule and, get some Sharpies out and mark up the paper and then take it home and formalize it and give them another look at it. And essentially, they'll tell you when they think it's something they can recommend to us. And that's what you want. That's your gold standard, is when they say, yep, I can recommend this to the board, we'll be ready to take the action on it without risking the full site plan review with engineering and all that. Does that work?
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
Okay. Other comments by anybody?
We haven't talked at all about the drainage and where it goes and from this site and how that's being handled. And
I think that would be part of community development, discussing it with Garrett.
That's primarily one of the reasons why we have not recommended a waiver of full site plan
Yeah,
review, is
I
because
didn't
of the
hear it
addition of that
discussed tonight.
impervious surface to
Just
the
wanted
site.
to bring it up.
Well, no, but Nelson's on the right point, because if the staff is never gonna recommend full site plan review because of drainage, better to know that now.
That, we'd have to discuss with Dawn and Public Works, but ultimately, generally speaking, when you're increasing impervious surface, they're generally gonna wanna see an analysis to see how that impacts the drainage.
Yep.
Does that mean about the garage, the proposed garage addition?
Potentially so, but I got a potential solution for you to propose to them. The AstroTurf that you removed was impervious. Measure it by square footage and make sure it's about the same size as your garage, so you're not adding square footage.
Yeah.
And then talk to Dawn and the staff about that. I bet
The
you'd find a
concern
solution.
that was brought up with mentioning the use of recycled asphalt, that's gonna add impervious to where it's not today, so that's another
Potentially
thing
so.
to keep.
Think about gravel driveway instead of recycled asphalt. The AstroTurf area looks like it's probably about big enough to give you the space you want for your garage. And since you've taken the AstroTurf out already, that may give you your solution. Right?
Because I'm not a dog groomer.
Who wants it?
But that's okay.
You don't have to mow it, I guess. I
Does
don't know.
stone work? Does something else work besides AstroTurf? I mean, who do I talk to? These
Well, no,
guys?
yeah, I mean, I'm not telling you you need AstroTurf. I'm
Okay.
saying this whole idea of drainage is when you put a roof or a driveway or something that doesn't let water go through it, it changes the drainage. It's got to run off the sides of the roof or whatever. If we already approved a plan that had AstroTurf on it and you're taking that away, you're getting rid of some barrier, and then you're kind of adding some other barrier, and if it's about the same size, then we can look at it and say, all right, we can let it go. Assuming that Dawn is happy with that. She may tell me I'm crazy and it doesn't make any sense. Dawn is the town engineer. She's not here.
The guy that pulled it out said, this stuff's expensive. I should, oops.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I think, what was the cost for the school to do their field?
Don't go there.
$500,000 or something?
Don't go there.
That was a different kind of grant.
Yeah, there's a lot to
Yeah,
that.
that's
Okay.
different, AstroTurf.
You ready? You know what you need to know for next time?
I do.
Okay, we don't need to vote. We're closing the agenda item and moving on to the next one. We will see you at the end of July. Let's see here. That and that. We are on agenda item number 4, Ronald Rosenfeld as the applicant, and Garrett and Jillian Susi and Rosanero Trust of 2014 as the owner. Continued review for acceptance and consideration of final approval for a lot line adjustment. The parcels are located at 12 and 14 Dodier Court in the R1 Residential by Soils and Aquifer Conservation Districts. Tax map 7C, lot 47-1 and 47-2. Case Planning Board 2021-13. The items continued from April 20th Planning Board meeting. Tim, is there anything that we need to know before we hear from the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. In your packet, you'll find a memo from Casey Wolf describing this project. As you may recall, this was originally submitted a couple of months ago. Did need to go before the Zoning Board of Adjustment because the non-conforming lots were being modified. Those variances for both 12 and 14 Dodier were obtained last week. So we are here tonight for a fairly straightforward lot line adjustment to address minor encroachment between the two lots. And if I recall correctly, both lots essentially will end up with the same amount of square footage pre and post adjustment.
Okay, excellent. Please introduce yourself and tell us where we're at with this, and I see we haven't determined it to be complete yet, so we'll start with that. Ready, set, go.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Mike Pluff. I'm a land surveyor with Fieldstone Land Consultants. Here tonight to represent a lot line adjustment between lots 7C 47-2, which is the Garrett and Jillian Susi, and 7C 47-1, which is the Renarial Trust of 2014, and that one's located at 14. They're both, the first one's located at 14, the second one's located at 12 Dodier Court. So we were before this board on April 16th, 2021, where at that time we were continuing to order sync variances for both lots as they were considered legal non-conforming lots. On May 26, 2021, we were granted variances to allow lots 47-1 and 47-2 to have frontages of 241.33 feet and 200 feet, whereas 250 feet is required, or is now required. And to allow 47-1 to have an area of 87,628 square feet, where 100,000 square feet is now required. We were granted variances that night, and since then, we have also addressed the staff review comments, with the exception of final monuments and the submission of final legal documents, including the relocated driveway and utility easements, which are pending at this time. Up on the screen, I can kind of walk you through it. Last time we were here, it's pretty much the same configuration with the lot line. The Rosenfeld trustees had a stockade fence in this area. It had some lawn area that was encroaching on the Susi property. And so we came up with this configuration here, which if you look down at the detail, the pink parcel A area is coming off from lot 47-1 and being added to 47-2, whereas the blue parcel B area is coming off from 47-2 and being added to 47-1 for an equal area swap. Last time we were here as well, it was noticed that the existing driveway, it's kind of hard to see up there, which is right here, did not fall within the limits of the subdivision approved driveway easement, which is this orange area right here. Since then, we have proposed a new driveway and utility easement, which is right here. It's the yellow area, which will we will submit pending. We have pending documents to be submitted for the legalities of that. Other than that, that's pretty much it. And again, we still need to set monuments and pending the documents.
Okay. Thank you, Mike, for the presentation. So last time we were here, you explained all of the lot line adjustment. We just needed variances in order to be able to figure them out. And now we've got the variances, and you're going to fix the driveway easement to be reflected correctly in both plan and document. Other than that, that's the differences?
That's the differences.
Okay, planning board, does anybody have any questions necessary to determine whether the application's complete? If not, what's the will of the board on completeness?
Just one question. The surveyor talked about a yellow, and I can't see a yellow.
Can you
because-
zoom in on that part of the plan? Where the-
Sure.
Where were you talking about yellow?
Yeah,
What?
to the left of the cul-de-sac at the upper part of
Uh-huh.
the bulb, there's some yellow highlighting where the driveway actually exists on the ground. It's just
It's
not
very
in
faint.
the.
It's more brilliant on the
Oh,
screen
okay.
here, but
Yeah,
It's not on there.
yeah, the screen on this side of the room has got a little bit, you can make it out, but barely.
Okay. I remember what we were talking about, and so I'm satisfied. He's addressed the issue that we had raised last time, so I have no problem.
Okay.
Is that a
I
motion
would-
to accept?
What?
Motion to accept as complete.
I will make a motion to accept as complete.
I'll second that.
Lynn seconds. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 500 to determine the application is complete. There are no waivers determined to be necessary.
The one thing I will note is, I know that Mike had noted that he's addressed all the comments. We have not had a chance to review. Those plans hadn't been submitted to us yet, so the
Okay.
recommendation of staff is to continue with the conditions as per Casey's memo. And if they're all addressed, it just makes it easier.
So to keep all the conditions in the memo?
Correct.
Okay, so we can do conditional final approval subject
Yes,
to these conditions? And any comments you have on his revised plan? Should we have another condition
That's
for that?
always part of it.
Okay. General discussion by members of the board about the proposal. Are there any abutters or citizens who wish to weigh in? Open and close the public hearing. Is the board prepared to take final action? Anybody?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put forth a motion that the board grant final conditional approval to the application with the following precedents listed in Casey's memo.
Is there a second for,
I'll second.
second by Lynn? If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
That
Aye.
includes any comments that come from staff review?
Always does.
Yep, that's in Tim's memo as well. So, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 500. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for going through the process of getting the variances straightened out. And let's go to number 5 on our agenda, which is the John Flatley Company as the applicant and owner. Continued review for consideration of a site plan to construct 100,000 square feet of research and development / warehouse in 3 proposed buildings and associated site improvements per the requirements of the Flatley mixed-use conditional use permit. The parcel is located at 685 Daniel Webster Highway in the I-1 Industrial District and the Aquifer Conservation and Wellhead Protection Areas. Tax map 6E, lot 3-4, case planning board 2020-19. It is continued from September 1, October 6th, October 20th, November 10th, January 5th, and May 4th planning board meetings. The September, October, and November were in 2020, and the January and May were in 2021. With that in mind, as is my habit, I'll recuse myself on this item and turn over the conduct of the meeting to our vice chair.
And I would advise the vice chair that until member Christensen comes back, we pause because we do not currently have a quorum sitting in the room.
There we go.
Yes.
I'm gonna go over here.
There you go. We will we'll wait about 5 minutes, wait for Lynn to get back, so.
It comes and goes, it's usually here somewhere. I like this desk. Yeah.
My apologies.
As member Lynn Christensen has just returned to the room, we can continue. Chad, nice to see you again.
Good to see you as well, Mr. Chairman.
If you could update us with any updates and show us what you have.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Chad Brannon, civil engineer with Fieldstone Land Consultants, and I'll be representing the John Flatley Company this evening. With me tonight from the John Flatley Company is Kevin Walker, and we are before you again tonight to review the site plan approval to construct 3 industrial flex space buildings totaling 100,000 square feet over tax map parcel 6E 3-4. We've been before the board a number of times reviewing this proposal, and I guess just to update everybody, this project has gone through pretty significant review as it relates to stormwater management, primarily because of the PFAS situation with the St. Cobain property next door. That's consisted of a number of meetings with town staff, Department of Environmental Services, Merrimack Village District, and actually a lot of shared meetings as well. We did share with the board at the last meeting that in working with DES, we were able to come up with a stormwater management design that does meet all the local criteria, so we do not need a stormwater waiver, which we had initially submitted with this project. We are happy to report that it's our understanding that DPW has reviewed that design, and to this point, they are, it's acceptable to them. The design was also reviewed by the town's consultant, Fuss and O'Neill. They did issue a letter dated, I believe it was dated April 30th. We have had a chance to go through that letter. We have no concerns with any of the comments in that letter, but I would just like to point out that the stormwater comments in that letter really consist of only 3 remaining comments. One of them is a labeling error. We labeled an orifice on an outlet structure as 1.7 inches, and it should be 1.75. Another one pertains to just a general comment relating to the EPA, because that was a concern about whether this project met the EPA requirements for the town's MS4 standards. We were able to submit, I think it was the evening of the last meeting, to Mr. Thompson, an email from EPA. The author of the email was Thelma Murphy. She's the Water Permits Branch Manager for the Water Division of EPA. And she stated in the first line of her email, and I suspect that it may be in the board's packet this evening, but she states that if this is a private project that's discharging directly to a water body and not into the town's MS4, the project does not fall into the town's MS4 permit. Again, it's my understanding that since submitting this material to the town, that the Department of Public Works has had a chance to review this, and that this does address their concerns, and they seem to be happy with having that on file. With that said, Mr. Chairman, we really just, in discussions with Robert last week, got confirmation that DPW was okay with the drainage design as it is. So we haven't finalized the review with Fuss and O'Neill, but I can tell you that their comments are very minor, and we are comfortable with addressing their comments as a condition of approval, which I believe is recommended in the staff memo for this evening's meeting. We also had an opportunity to go through all of the items that are listed under the staff recommendations. We have no objections to any of those comments. We are requesting 2 waivers with this application, which we were not able to address at the last meeting, but it's my understanding that we can address them this evening. Both of those waivers are, I should say, the waivers consist of, one of them has to do with the illumination level at the property line, and the other has to do with the existing conditions and locating trees on the property that are 15 inches in diameter or larger, and I would be happy to address those waiver requests, at any point this evening. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have, but we do believe that we are in a position where we're hoping the board will consider a conditional approval for this application this evening. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chad. Members of the board, would you rather go into general questions or have him address those waivers one at a time? Anybody have any preference?
Why don't we do the waivers? Yeah.
Yeah. Chad, if you want to go through the waivers, explanation and all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So our first waiver request is from section 3.13E32 and 3.13 T. Both of those have to do with the maximum lighting level of 0.2 foot candles at the property boundary. The area in question, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to pull the lighting plan up. See if we can successfully zoom in here.
If you right-click and do marquee zoom, it's a little easier. And just
You're
drag
right.
a box.
Thank you. Much appreciated. So the area that we're requesting a waiver from is this back area right here. You can see we're at 0.2 foot candles in this location here. I think we're in 0.3 right here, but it quickly reduces to 0.1, which is the requirement typically at the property line.
That's on the St. Gobain side, correct?
That's on the St. Gobain side of the project. So I just wanted to go over that real quick before I get into the actual waiver request here. So the area in question is at the loading area behind the northerly most building, which is this building here, along the boundary of Lot 6C3-2, which is the St. Gobain boundary, and this is the shared boundary with the St. Gobain property right here, this heavy line. A waiver for the lighting levels at this boundary, we believe is justified for several reasons. Both the lots are located in the industrial zone and are industrial uses. The area in question is the only access to the St. Cobain manufacturing facility, and along their existing road through here, they actually have pole-mounted lights, which are not full downcast lights, so I'm sure there's some illumination that may extend into this area as well. There is an existing easement on Lot 6E 3-2 that benefits the subject parcel, being my client's parcel, and that's an easement to basically to travel over this area. Doesn't necessarily mean we can, light it up to some great extent, but we have what we would consider some pretty minor light extending over the property line. This waiver, again, is only for the loading area behind the northerly building adjacent to the St. Cobain driveway, which is, again, already illuminated with standard non-shielded streetlights. We also think it's important to point out that the lighting design, in this case, to meet this requirement and provide for adequate on-site lighting, has been, the layout really has been shifted and to try to be as far away from DW Highway as possible. Obviously, over the course of many months, we've heard a lot of concerns relative to the abutting properties, and so we've really tried to favor that back side of the property for the industrial activity. Well, what happens is the light poles get a little bit closer to the property line, and you get some minor, bleed over with the lumens here, or the foot candles. We would state for the record that the lighting design is not excessive, which is outlined in the regulations that, it should not be an excessive lighting design, and that the lighting design shall meet the uniformity ratio and not exceed a 4-to-1 ratio, which we do meet on this project. So for all of those reasons, Mr. Chairman, we are requesting a waiver from these two sections.
The trees?
You want me to touch on the trees
Yeah,
as
if you
well?
could go, we'll
Yeah.
address them one at a time, but if you could
Sure.
just run through them.
So we are also requesting a waiver from section 4.12C 18, subsection 8, which requires the identification of existing trees greater than 15 inches in diameter. With this project, we're requesting that the board waive the requirement for mapping all of the existing trees 15 inches in diameter or greater. The design intent is to clear the majority of the site within the project area, and the plans do clearly show the limited clearing and the existing vegetation within the prescribed limits, which is to remain. Due to the industrial nature of the proposed development and the amount of terrain alteration necessary to provide level areas for the buildings and the associated parking and loading areas, it is not possible to preserve existing trees other than the trees that are already designated for preservation. We think it's also important to point out that the survey for this property was conducted back in 2013 as part of a master plan process. And back in 2013, the mapping of 15-inch and larger trees, to our knowledge, was not actually a requirement. So completing this survey at this stage would certainly cause a financial hardship to our client and would, in our opinion, not offer beneficial data, as the layout and buffering was all discussed as part of the master plan review and approval for this project. So for all of these reasons, Mr. Chairman, we are also respectfully requesting that the board consider a waiver from this section for the requirement of locating the existing trees that would be 15 inches in diameter or larger.
Thank you, Chad. Okay, members of the board, any specific questions regarding either of those waiver requests?
No?
No? Any motions want to be made as regards to those?
I'm willing to make a motion to grant the waiver. We'll take them one at a time. I think we
That's
should
fine.
have separate motions. And I would make a motion that we grant the waiver on lighting being specific to this particular area of the plan and not to the whole section of the ordinance, but specifically in this region, that this is where we're granting the waiver.
So specific circumstances relative to the site plan?
Oh,
Correct.
yes, thank you.
Motion made by
I'll
Nelson.
second.
Seconded by Lynn Christensen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No, so that's 4-0-0 to grant the first waiver. Regarding the lighting, do I hear a motion on the second waiver regarding the trees?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to grant a waiver on the 15-inch tree requirement, again, because it would cause excessive, what are
This
the
one I think would be strict conformity with pose an unnecessary hardship.
Hardship.
Yeah.
Yes, strict conforming wouldn't be a hardship. Thank you.
Barbara's turn.
Second.
Motion made by Nelson Disco, seconded by Councilwoman Barbara Healy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No one? That's 4-0-0 to grant the second waiver. Okay, now that those are out of the way, any general questions regarding the plan?
I have one question.
Go ahead, Nelson.
At one point, we had a discussion about the appearance of these buildings. And at that time, there was a submittal made by the applicant. And Chad, you were here, and you kind of agreed with me that the submittal that they made didn't really look so good. And you were gonna take it back and get it fixed, okay?
I think we
Where is
did.
that? Or do you remember that?
I do remember that, and it's my understanding that we did take it back and I think made considerable improvements. And these are the latest renderings of the buildings that we have submitted to the town. I think these are on file, but this shows one of the concerns that was raised early on was that it was a large, expansive building, and we
Yeah.
didn't have much of a breakup along the
Right.
front facade.
Right.
But as you can see here, Mr. Disco, there has been considerable modifications made. There's some changing of the colors. There's, I think this is raised panel on the, near the entrance with covers over the front door, or a roof over the front door, rather. And I do have some 8.5 by 11s that I'd be happy to distribute to the board as well, just for review. But these are on file with the town. And
Okay.
it's my understanding
Yeah.
that these are substantially better than the ones that we reviewed many, many, many months ago, which was really a blank front.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
kind of
that's
just
what-
showed conceptually.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
Much improved. This is fine, Jack.
Well, I don't remember seeing these, and I don't think these were distributed.
I don't believe they were actually included in the actual site plan packet, which is one of our conditions that they need to be included in the site plan overall package. I
Yeah.
think it was a supplemental submittal that wasn't part of the site plan package.
Okay, these, if we choose to approve this tonight, these should be part of it.
I would
These are
agree.
substantially improved, if anybody else would like to look at them. But I didn't see them prior to this, and I wanted to make sure that was covered.
I think a lot of this is just that there hasn't been a full resubmittal in quite some time on this. There has been no submittal since the last meeting to tonight, simply because the two remaining questions from our last meeting were the EPA question and the peer review, both of which, I can state that I fully agree with Chad that they have substantially addressed the peer review engineering comments for this project, and that Public Works has accepted the EPA notice that there is no impact to the
Yeah.
town's MS4. From my perspective, since I didn't have an opportunity before we started to give my 2 cents, no problem.
I'm still getting
It's
used
still
to it,
new,
too.
I know.
Okay.
I think that Chad covered it well. We are in a position of recommending conditional final approval here tonight because they have addressed so many of the comments we've had over the course of this project, and it has been an enormous change from what was originally presented that caused us so much concern regarding the drainage to the design that we have before us tonight, which complies with the town's requirements, both from the regulations that we have as the planning board through the site plan regulations, as well as the town's stormwater requirements through the council's ordinance. So we're in a much better position than we were going back to when this was originally submitted back last September. I think that the project that you see here tonight is without my two concerns that I still have left, and I am comfortable with these being conditions of approval as long as the planning board is comfortable. One is just making sure that we revise the traffic impact analysis so that it properly reflects that there is a greenfield site here with no development, that we can't take credit for the master site development plan from the CUP because that was never constructed, so that needs to be adjusted. So we're talking 0 to whatever this is for traffic impact. And secondly is that MVD giving their final sign off on the water distribution for the project. The latest we had heard was going back to the last meeting that they requested a further review and meeting between the applicant and MVD.
I did want to touch on that, Chad. I was, when I was going through this, a little let down that you hadn't talked to MVD yet. Was there a reason for that, or you were just waiting to hear from us, or what?
I think my understanding is we're actually working on a draft of the development agreement right now to share with Mr. Minor at MVD. But certainly the goal is to meet with MVD. We're working on, we made a submission for another high bay building on the property, and we're working on a concept plan to develop the property behind the St. Cobain building. So I think we're really trying to finalize that concept plan so that we can have a discussion with MVD, hopefully one time to address the whole project instead of trying to handle it, through a number of discussions. So that's my understanding, and certainly Mr. Walker can address this as well.
And for the record, Kevin Walker with the John Flatley Company.
It's good to see you,
Chad pretty much hit everything on there, but I did speak with Ron Minor a couple weeks ago and explained to him that we, at this point, want to get an idea of what we're going to need for the whole site. Because at this point, like Chad mentioned, we've got a high bay building that's been submitted. We've got this, we've got the residential, and we've got a roadway that's going around the backside of St. Cobain that's in design. And we're at the point now that we don't want to put in a wrong size water main. So we're kind of looking at this whole thing and how to go about it. So MVD has actually had their first crack at looking at the water main sizes. How we've got it left right now is I need to get him some rough flows for everywhere, which is a little bit up in the air, but I'm going to give my best guess and hopefully get that to MVD hopefully this week. And then they'll go through their review process with their consultant, and we'll just keep it moving from there. But we are moving forward with MVD.
Okay, that's good. I have one more question, Kevin. I'll get to you in a second, Barbara.
No problem.
You'll have to forgive my ignorance. While you were dealing with the state for the MS4 and all that in your drainage plans, was MVD a part of that conversation at all, given that you're within the aquifer district?
You want to talk to him? Yeah, go ahead.
The answer to that question is, in my opinion, yes. And I think, honestly, that MVD's involvement had some impact. My opinion is that it had some impacts on the state reconsidering the treatment practices that they were allowing us to utilize for this site. And what I mean by that was we had a group meeting with town staff. It had New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, Alteration and Terrain Bureau, Hazardous Waste Management Bureau. I think Don Preventure was in attendance at that meeting. And there was a lot of good dialogue that I felt was productive to the state taking a different approach on how they would allow us to handle the stormwater mitigation for this project, which in large part addressed some of MVD's comments. It also, or concerns, and also addressed some of DPW's concerns and the Conservation Commission's concerns as it related really to peak attenuation of storm events. Initially, we started this process with a kickoff meeting with the state because we knew that there was going to be some significant feedback, and we wanted their input early. Unfortunately, when we took their input and we designed a project, it wasn't really favorably reviewed by many departments, I think is safe to say at this point. But that kind of initiated a lot of good constructive dialogue that really has landed this project back before the board this evening and in the prior meeting with a modified design guided by DES through their review. But I think MVD's input through Mr. Preventure and I'm sure many of the people at MVD did have an impact on what we have before you tonight. That's my opinion, and I don't know if
No, I would
Mr. Thompson-
concur, and I think that there's some advantage that one of the members of DES staff is Jeff Martz, who used to be the consultant working for MVD, so there's a bit of cross-knowledge there that I think was quite helpful through the process.
Thank you, Tim. Chad. Barbara, you had a question?
Actually, I have a couple, thank
Yep,
you.
go
But
ahead.
you were getting very close to where my concern was with the aquifer recharge. And I would like to see something from MVD state that even though you've got a lot of impervious surfaces going in, that they are not concerned about the aquifer recharge, because that was a concern of theirs. So I would like to see something from them as well, not only regarding the usage going to all of the buildings, as you said in your overall plan, but also, are they still concerned about that? And if so, what's the remedy for that? So I don't expect you to have an answer tonight.
Well, I think I want to offer an answer to that only because, we've kind of been handcuffed with how we can design this site from a stormwater management standpoint, entirely under the guidance and review from the Alteration of Terrain Bureau, who's working hand in hand with the Hazardous Waste Management Bureau. We've designed the site to completely comply with the local standards. So I think we've met all the standards that we need to, otherwise we'd be requesting a waiver. With that said, we're actually not proposing recharge on this site, and that is a requirement. And you can't propose recharge on any site that DES qualifies as a hot zone, if you will, that has contamination, groundwater contamination. So that's not something that we can do. And so we're not recharging, we're not impacting the recharge as it relates to that. So I just wanted to offer that information.
I just bring it up because it was a concern for them. So anyways, now my other questions. There's a pond on the site, as you well know. And when I look at the plans, I'm not seeing a fence or any kind of barrier around that particular pond. Is that in the plans, or is it just going to be open? I'm thinking of the residential that's going in, the possibility of children. We don't necessarily want them playing in that pond. So it's not on the plan that I could see, so.
So you're referring to the existing pond on
Yes.
site? Okay, because the stormwater management design has been, we're utilizing basically surface flow practices such as treatment swales, detention basins, so there's no permanent pond that we're designing.
Okay.
But the existing pond on site is located between this property, and I'll just bring the plan up so we can speak to it specifically.
Yeah, the reason, we haven't seen what that revised plan is for the stormwater, so,
We did actually submit the plan for the stormwater.
well,
That is the plan that was submitted for last meeting, has the revised stormwater.
right, okay.
So,
Sorry, I'm just trying to open this here.
it's a big file.
So in other words, that pond is pretty much going away.
No, it's still there.
It's going to still be there because it's on your plan.
Yeah,
So
it's still
the,
there.
you're talking, so there's this pond right
Yep.
here, which is the existing old fishery pond.
Right.
Which has an outlet structure roughly about here. And that outlet's all the way down on the other side of Dumpling Brook, exactly. We're not showing a fence around this pond right now. I think Fish and Game, to be honest, would probably discourage a fence in that location, just because if there was any wildlife that wanted to utilize that pond. But what we've done is we've situated that, there's actually a retaining wall along this edge of the access road here. So there's really a topographic break, if you will. And this is an industrial use building. And then on the other side of that, I'm just gonna pull up should have opened these plans to begin with.
Yeah, while you're doing that, as you know, that there's a fence around it now, so the, residents or anyone else wandering through just cannot, unless the gate's open, can't really walk up to the
Right,
pond.
yeah, it's
and-
removed from it, yeah, but you're
Yeah.
right, yep. So that's located here, and the residential use is over here, so it's a pretty good distance away. This is proposed to be commercial retail space, and certainly there's gonna be ample time to review those site plans when we have them coming before you, but I just wanted to get to the grading. So this is the stormwater management pond, if you will, but this isn't gonna have a permanent pool. There's gonna be an outlet structure on that just meters the flow out of that basin so that we meet the treatment and both of the quantity and quantitative and qualitative components of the stormwater. But this isn't gonna have a permanent pool for any duration. During a large storm event, it will have standing water, but it'll drain out over a period of time. So we currently are not proposing a fence here. To be honest, we've never done fences around any of the stormwater management facilities at any of John Flatley's properties, and I think it's primarily because his properties are normally well-manned and, taken care of, manicured, and they haven't raised an issue from a liability
Well,
standpoint.
that wasn't the pond I was concerned
Okay.
about.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So there's no plan right now to do anything with the existing fence there, that's gonna remain?
I believe that's gonna remain.
Yeah, no plans that out yet.
Okay.
It was a simple answer. I took the long route, sorry.
Hey, and just to, seeing I'm on the town council, I kind of know some of this stuff. So there was a plan that was submitted to DES about soil testing. And the soil testing, actually, if I remember correctly, because I don't have that email anymore, but it was pretty much where all your buildings are going to go. So has that soil testing been done yet? And I guess DES has the results, or will you be starting to, work on getting your AOT for the rest of the sites going forward once you have those results in hand? How does that all tie together?
So it ties together, I can tell you how it ties together. When we submit for the alteration of terrain permit, they communicate directly with the Hazardous Waste Management Bureau, and they review the soils management plan, and ultimately, I would say both approvals happens simultaneously.
Okay.
But I'll let Kevin address the status of the soils testing.
Our consultant, GZA, has been out there and has started doing their work. They may have actually finished doing their work. From this point, they analyzed their data, put their report together, submitted it via One Stop to DES, and then they review it and say, here you go. So the soil management plan, I mentioned this at the last hearing, it's gonna be the same, just about the same as
Yep.
what it was for the apartments.
Yep.
And basically all that said was, during construction, if we hit groundwater, we need to file for additional permits from DES and treat that groundwater if we're gonna pump it to install utilities and whatnot. That said, I don't expect that to happen out here. We had infiltration designed out here at one point, and that was obviously well above groundwater, and our slabs are well above groundwater, and I don't believe we're gonna have too much issue with utility install. If we do, we'll have something in place to address it, so.
Expect that all soil materials will have to remain on site.
Yeah, yep, that's part of the soil management plan, is everything has to remain on site. and I'll get off point a little bit like somebody else. One of the abutters for the apartments I've spoken to quite a few times, he'd just like a little bit more screening back there. So what was bothering me about this entire 150 acres is, what am I gonna do with all this dirt that's left over? Well, I can tell you, we're gonna take the loam from here and possibly the high bay warehouse that we just submitted and bring it over to the apartment site behind building number 5, which was just finished up, and put a berm up there and hopefully get some plantings up on top.
Well, that'll
provide a
add
little- a
to
little
some
more
privacy on
screening.
the other side, yeah.
Yeah, try to give a little more screening to the neighbors over there, so
Yeah,
that's the game plan as far as keeping it on site.
great. Thank you so much.
No problem, thanks.
So it will remain on site. I think that's,
Yes.
yeah, everything will still remain on site. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, in regards to that, when will the results of the soil sampling be concluded? When will you have results?
I would suspect within the next couple of weeks. What I can do is I can email Tim once I know for sure.
We can distribute if needed. Yep.
That, because I remember I asked you about your sampling plan, it had not been approved last time I asked about it. Are some of the sampling sites within the boundaries of these buildings?
Yeah,
I'm
basically-
assuming so.
Basically covers the remainder of the site.
Yeah.
And the location.
You gotta be at the microphone, Kevin, sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, the locations of all the sampling locations were okayed by DES.
Yeah.
That hadn't been done, like you mentioned at the last meeting.
No, yeah, I'm aware, yeah.
So that was okayed, and that's it, the drilling starts and samples get taken, and they're taking them at, I think 6 inches, 2 feet, and then somewhere a little bit deeper, and doing analysis on all those.
How many sites are there? How many?
Oh, boy, I want to say there were upwards of 50 or so. I mean, it covered quite a bit of room. It covered all this area here. It
And the
covered,
land and back? Yeah.
covered the area north of the St. Gobain entrance, behind St. Gobain. It also included portions of the future retail, so.
Another question that might have already been answered. Have you sampled any of the soil yet to date? Or are these the first samples to be taken of this
On the whole site?
Yes. Not counting the residential portion.
These would be the first samples taken.
I only ask because I would be a little worried that you have yet to sample this or get results from it, and yet you want to take this topsoil and move it closer to the residents and other neighborhoods.
Well, we're gonna be required to take the soil and keep it on site.
Yeah, I'm aware. I'm just saying from taking it to where it's in the industrial area and moving it literally next to somebody's backyard in the apartments and the residential neighborhood next to it. I'm just a little apprehensive about that, I guess you could say. I don't know if that's a state thing or if we even have jurisdiction over that, but,
That would
yeah.
be part of the soils management plan that gets reviewed at
Yeah.
the state level.
Right. The state would have to okay it.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, I think I'm set.
Did you have a question, Nelson?
I think I'm all set,
Okay.
yeah.
Public.
Oh, that's right, yes.
Oh, yeah.
This time, we can open up the public hearing. If anybody of the public wants to step up, offer any testimony. Come on up, please speak into the microphone, introduce yourself, your name and your address. Give us your testimony.
I'd rather leave it on.
Can't always hear you.
Okay, I can speak loud.
Okay.
Ashley Tenhave, 75 Shelburne Road, Webster Green Apartment Complex, condo complex. So I speak every meeting regarding this site plan and all of that. Continued concerns. That entrance, dangerous. It's terrible. You're gonna have people turning left into Webster Green, turning right into Webster Green, turning right into this facility, turning left in this facility, trying to go both north and south straight, and then you're gonna have people trying to turn left and right, both in and out of Shelburne and in and out of this facility. That is a terrible, terrible intersection. It's hard enough as it is right now, just being a resident there, trying to take a left-hand turn. Traffic is horrendous. We oftentimes take our own safety into jeopardy, just trying to take a left-hand turn out of there, trying to bypass the traffic that's already on those roads. And then now fighting an 18-wheeler, trying to turn in, trying to turn out, other cars trying to turn in, trying to turn out. It's gonna be a mess. 2 years ago, there was 6 accidents just at our entrance. A couple of them actually hit the signs for Webster Green. One of them was over a 6-car accident. Luckily, nobody died, but can't say that if this continues. Our school bus stop is 15 feet from our entrance right there, to the right, to the north. You've got school bus trying to stop. You've got not everybody stopping for the school bus. Not here, but at my previous residence here in Merrimack, my son's school bus was hit twice, trying to let him off. This is a big concern. Last week I was trying to take a left into Webster Green. I was in the left-hand turn lane heading north, and a car was trying to turn right into Webster Green, and the car behind him went around him and almost creamed the front of my car as I'm sitting there waiting. This is a terrible idea, and I'm gonna continue to say it. This is dangerous, and this really needs to be taken into consideration. We've asked Mr. Flatley and these guys multiple times to look at changing the entrance, changing where it is, changing the way it's done, you know, turning it into maybe a fire exit or just a one-way or, you know, something. We're really trying to look out for the safety of our residents, the safety of our kids. Never mind just the fact that it can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes depending on traffic. Before COVID, it was taking up to 15 minutes to take a left-hand turn out of our community. If you put that entrance there, it's gonna take even longer. We are going to be basically trapped inside our condo community. This is not what we asked for living there. We really do need some assistance from the board if Flatley is not going to do this job and change this. I really do ask that you take another look at this, ask them to take another look at this and change this. Big safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tenhave. Are there any other members of the public that wish to testify? Please speak into the microphone, introduce yourself and your address, please.
Will do, thank you. Katie Poirier, 11 Kimberly Drive, Merrimack, also Webster Green. First of all, I will confirm that, yes, Kevin, thank you for the letter. He did ask for us to reach out to him in regards to some fencing, and just, I know I'm not supposed to speak to him, but just so everyone is aware, the condo association's legal team, MSU, will be reaching out to them in regards to that. So that's neither here or there, but just for the record, that is in the works. Had other things going on. Again, just to reiterate, I don't know, can we have a different screen view? Is there another view of this that maybe shows the full DW highway? Or the whole site section? I don't know how to really comment on it. Oh, no, go one down.
The overview plan, Chad.
Yeah, oh,
Back.
yeah.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Chad.
Do you mind if I use your mouse? Okay, thank you. So I don't know exactly how to describe this working. Where is the mouse? Okay. I don't know exactly how to describe, like right here. It's very thin. So my dog and I walk DW Highway every day. And where you see the top of the letters there, it narrows. And every day when I walk that strip, I hold my hand out just so cars don't get close to me, because when it gets close to the Daniel part of that site, it is so narrow that, I mean, I don't think I'm a very large person, maybe I am, but it is just a one-person row. And then holding my hand out just so, for my safety and or my dog's safety, not for a car to come that close. And again, right there is our bus stop. So who knows what's gonna happen there. You know, just like Ashley stated, if that entrance ended up being more of a fire entrance and not a main entrance, I really feel that that should be taken into consideration, especially how the main entrance up to the right has a light signal. I've reached out to New Hampshire DOT District 5, and they will not provide a light down at the intersection of Shelburne and Flatley's property. So they feel it's too close to the other intersection. So I just really, before you guys make that accommodation, unless there's gonna be a light signal that somebody can make that accommodation, I just don't feel that that's safe for anybody, for Flatley's site and or us in general. You know, you might as well just call Russian roulette and hope for the best. And again, you know, I know there was a light, or I'm sorry, a signage that's going in at that section. I don't know where that particular portion of that on the site is, because I've been asking Rhonda and she's saying that there's no submission. So, and I believe that was also on the Fuss and O'Neill site as well, recommendation for that to be addressed. And I haven't heard anything about that, so just kind of questioning that illuminance as well for the lighting. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Either Chad or Kevin, or, I'm sorry, before we get to that, are there other members of the public that wish to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public session. Chad, Kevin, would you like to comment on any of that?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess just to touch on the last comment from Ms. Poirier, as it relates to signage, we are not currently proposing project signage at this time for this site, so we would have to come back to the town for any permitting associated with project signage and any associated lighting. That would have to go through a separate review. Fuss and O'Neill actually did review the traffic comments, or the traffic report that was prepared for this project. We have no issues with any of their comments. I know Vanessa and Associates is working with Department of Transportation right now on the DOT permitting for this project. I can speak to the layout here for the access to this site. When we started with the master plan back in 2013, there was pretty significant reviews on a local level, but also on a state level with DOT. And these are the locations that DOT recommended access to this project be provided. When you're doing intersection design and traffic design, you often try to align intersections with each other directly across the road. It eliminates turning conflicts, and it's actually the safest way to design an intersection. With that said, I mean, one of the benefits of this project is there is a signalized intersection over here. So people do have the option of coming over here and utilizing this signalized intersection to leave our site. This entrance may very well function for the most part as a free right in and a free right out, because those are gonna be your easiest turning movements. But there is the ability to take a left-hand turn out or a left-hand turn in. But with that said, there are off-site improvements proposed with this project. Those were included in the traffic memo that was submitted to the town by Vanessa and Associates. And it detailed, some of the off-site improvements that are proposed. There will be additional signage. There will be additional, some additional lane work done along the frontage of this project. But similar to the apartment complex, that has to be reviewed and approved through the Department of Transportation, because they ultimately have jurisdiction on the roadway here. But the town had their consultant review it, and we're not opposed to addressing their concerns and comments either. In fact, we will have to, hopefully, as a function of a condition of approval. I can say, and I think maybe part of the confusion regarding signage might be, and I'm just gonna go to the site plans here. Sorry, I printed a partial set that's got some color on it, so we may be better off looking at that. But so if you look up in this area here, Fuss and O'Neill was recommending that we did a stopping condition at the intersection here, which we actually have. So this is a stop-controlled intersection. They recommended that we just add additional signage. It's not shown on this plan, but this is gonna be stop-controlled as well. It is stop-controlled, it's just not on this particular plan. So there's a stop bar and a sign here, similar situation on this side over here. And they've asked us to also make this a stop condition here. And we are going to follow their recommendations as it relates to that as well. Those are comments that we reviewed with Vanessa and Associates. They concurred that those revisions make sense. So we are making those part of the plan. And as I said, we're actively pursuing the DOT permit, and that will, consist of additional improvements off-site. But that's the rationale with the location of the intersections. I mean, this is how we, again, been really guided. It makes sense. When you look at the project, I don't know what I just did. When you look at the, need to get some more friendly buttons on here. You look at the whole project in the frontage along Daniel Webster Highway. I mean, it does make sense from a turning movement standpoint to have the proposed curb cuts in the locations that they are situated. We've reviewed throughout the length of this project the concerns that the neighboring property owners have shared with the professionals that are involved with the design. They've actually taken, we're party to many of the meetings, and we've had discussions related to that, and this is the best design. What I can say is, at one time, we were talking about, and yes, it was just a master plan, but it ultimately was a plan for the project that, DOT agreed with conceptually, and we, had through the approvals through the conditional use permit locally. This was going to be retail, and this is a significantly less intense use, albeit, that's the characteristics are a lot different, yeah. And we will be routing and and there will be signage routing the truck traffic to the signalized intersection. That was another recommendation from Fuss and O'Neill. And, you know, certainly we're trying to work with the professionals and the review consultants and putting together the, you know, a finalized plan that addresses as many of the concerns as possible. But we think we're at a point now where, you know, we're really at the final stage of addressing these last few comments from the town's consultant, and then working with DOT on, you know, the permit for this project. It's the same process that we went through for the residential. So again, we are hoping the board will consider a conditional approval this evening. I don't know if you want to add to that at all. Okay.
Sorry, thank you, Chad. Barbara, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't think the signage within the parkway is going to really make a difference on what's happening out on DW. I mean, it's good that there are still some controls in there that, you know, with stop signs, et cetera, but that's really not going to impact what's happening out on DW. Now, since it's planting season, I've had the opportunity to go to the depot to buy my plants over last week. And I can tell you that that property and this project crossed my mind as I was sitting there trying to take a left out of the depot to go past the lot down DW. And I sat there for 10 minutes. So that was only one day. The second day that I went back, because I forgot a few items, it was the exact same thing, only it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I would ask you, if you've never sat trying to take a left on DW, I challenge you, go give it a try. It's not easy now, never mind when you build 3 warehouses and 96 residential units. So I would just ask you to please consider doing something to help alleviate that, because think of your children if they were standing on that corner just north of that intersection waiting for the bus, and all of this traffic is taking place going into all of those warehouses and the residential, and people coming out of the residential areas. So I ask you to take a look at that, please. Because I know you did a traffic study, but it's bad now. It's not going to get better. Thank you.
I just want to clarify that the only reason I brought up the signage was just because I think it was a misunderstanding in reading Fuss and O'Neill's review, because that's the signage that they refer to. Certainly, there's going to be additional signage along Daniel Webster Highway that's associated with the off-site improvements that would be proposed with, you know, this project. And I think what's really important here is that users of this site will more than likely utilize the signalized intersections during busy times of the day for the reasons that you experience along Daniel Webster Highway. I mean, you don't have to wait there very many times before you make a calculated decision to go to a signalized intersection, and you know that aids you in getting off the site. Certainly, we're really at the mercy of DOT. We can't put lights in wherever we want to along their highway. We don't meet warrants for signalized intersection in this location, but we do have to provide, you know, reasonable ingress and egress from the site. So I'm not discounting any of the comments and concerns that are raised. I think there is an existing issue along Daniel Webster Highway, and I think the important thing here is that our charge through the traffic study and the permitting through DOT is to make sure we're doing our part to not propagate that issue, but to make as many improvements as we can within our power. And I know that's what we're trying to do and what we're working with DOT on doing as it relates to the access for this project. So, thank you.
Nelson, go ahead.
Yeah, it's been a while since we reviewed the traffic. I think we reviewed it as part of the CUP and back in the day, and some water's gone under the bridge since then. Can you review for me what changes are being made along DW Highway as a result of this intersection improvement? I'm just not it's been a while since I looked at the reports. It was maybe 5 years since we started this.
Well, there's a new report with this project that Chad's been referring to.
Yeah, we submitted a report, and I think we actually had Giles Ham on one of the planning board meetings to briefly
The
present.
last remote meeting he was at.
Yeah,
The
and,
last what? No.
Last remote meeting that we had on this project, Giles was there on behalf of Flatley.
yeah, and we did touch
Oh.
on this, but
I don't remember it, yeah.
just gonna bring up, so this is the intersection that we're talking about here. So this represents, doesn't show up well, but this is our entrance on the south side or bottom side of this page, if you will. And then Shelburne Road directly across the street. Obviously, Daniel Webster Highway runs left to right. And so what you can see here is we are proposing a dedicated left turn lane with this project that would allow traffic coming southbound to come into the site. And then, you know, there would be a associated striping, signage, and so on off-site to accommodate that. The traffic report analyzed this intersection and, you know, addressed the turning movements for the project. It also evaluated the St. Cobain intersection and talked about distribution of traffic from this use to those two intersections. And so this was the proposal that was part of the traffic report. This is, you know, this exhibit along with the traffic report was reviewed by Fuss and O'Neill. They offered some comments, which are part of the staff memo for tonight's meeting. We are not opposed to addressing any of their comments or concerns. It was a pretty short letter, maybe a couple pages long.
I didn't recall that. I don't think so, Chad. I don't think we got anything
You
tonight.
do not have it in your packets. We typically don't include the Fuss O'Neill because it's such a large volume of technical information. We have available for review, but we don't generally include that in the packets.
Okay, I guess I'd like the chance to review it a little bit.
I'd agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you've got southbound on
This
Daniel-
design, if I can, I'm sorry to interrupt, Nelson. This is the design that roughly is in the hands of DOT as part of their review. So this is what the applicant has proposed to DOT for off-site improvements. It's now in DOT's hands to either say yes, no, or we want you to do this differently.
Oh, okay, so they have not,
Not been
Not
granted
final.
a permit at this stage.
yeah,
That's one of our conditions of approval is to obtain the permit.
That's correct.
okay. Yes, I'd like a chance to review it myself. Okay, thanks. I don't remember seeing it. I don't think we have it, yeah.
All set, Nelson? Was that all you had?
That's all I have at the moment, thanks.
Okay,
Cool.
you're all set. Any other questions from the members of the board? Just as a reminder, that the clock on this runs out on June 18th, so tonight's the night for any kind of action unless
Unless the
Chad wants
applicant
to-
decides
yeah,
they
unless
grant
they
an
want to
extension.
grant us an extension. So, with that in mind, do I have any motions to be put forth? And if there are no motions, do you have any other questions?
I'd like a chance to review the traffic.
I would agree with that, Nelson.
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
also like, I understand their point of view with waiting, but I would like to hear from MVD as well.
Yeah.
That's just me.
And it
Barbara.
might be interesting to see the results of the soil testing as well.
Yeah.
Of
Given
what-
that,
I'm sorry, Barbara,
granted,
you
that's
can-
not,
Oh, yes, yeah.
yes, granted, that's not under our jurisdiction, but I would be curious.
Yeah.
No motions? Would the applicant be willing to extend the clock? Tim, how would we go about that? I don't think that's a vote, correct?
It's not a vote from the board. It would need to be something in writing from the applicant to allow an authorization of the extension of the 676-4 timeframe.
Well, I guess with some of the comments that we received this evening, we'll respectfully request a continuance to the next meeting in,
If there's no plan, if the board isn't looking for anything additional from the applicant, but simply additional information from the town's files, then I would say if the next meeting is June 15th, which would be a day before that clock expires, if you're willing to do this in 2 weeks
and we're actually scheduled to be on that agenda
for another project.
for another project, so that would be convenient for my client if possible.
Anybody opposed to that?
No, I'd be okay with that. I think if we
June
could
15th.
have the material at least a week before the meeting, Tim.
The material is available. The
Well-
information has been submitted long ago, and I believe the traffic was in the initial round of materials that was provided to the board. Granted, that was back in September and October, but I know the traffic information was provided to the board at that
Okay.
point.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
It's just so long ago that I
Yeah.
Sure.
don't
No,
recall.
I understand.
Yeah.
I agree. Barbara, you okay with that?
Need a motion one way or the other?
To,
So you need a motion
extend it
to
to the 15th, correct?
continue to date certain with no further
Notice to the butters.
notices.
To 6:15.
Correct. Do I have
Yeah.
a second on that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Barbara Healy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's 4-0-0 to continue this to the June 15th meeting.
7 PM here, no further.
7
Thank you
PM
for your
here in the
time.
Matthew Thornton Room. Thank you very much, Chad.
Thanks for your patience, guys. It's just been a long time.
I understand, Nelson. With that item being concluded, I'm going to invite our chairman to take control of the meeting again.
Thank you, Paul, for handling that item on our agenda. Now we are up to item 6 on our agenda, which is BM Investments LLC as the applicant and George and Teresa Hadley as the owners. Review for acceptance and consideration of final approval for a 3-lot subdivision. The parcel is located at 119 Bean Road in the R1 Residential by Map and Aquifer Conservation Districts. Tax Map 6C, Lot 141, Case Planning Board 2021-18. Tim, is there anything that we need to know before we hear from the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This project was before the zoning board back in April to allow for one of the 3 proposed lots to have less than the required 100,000 square feet of contiguous upland space. That variance was granted. The proposal is to essentially chop off the lot there. There's an existing house on one of the 3 lots that would remain. The southwesterly most lot to the bottom corner of the plan, it would be the buildable lot proposed under the subdivision. There is a significant constraint of floodplain over the majority of this parcel, and I'll let Mr. Peterson explain the applicant's plans for how to move forward with that. But as of today, the third of the 3 lots would not be considered buildable due to the amount of floodplain that is currently located within it. So,
Mr. Pearson?
Good evening, Matt Pearson, Teach Norton Associates, here representing the applicant for 119 Green Road. I gotta step back one second here, sorry about that. Can I just step back one second?
Push the button.
The previous applicant that you asked us to notify, Keach Nordstrom, I just want the board to understand, we don't know anything about that project that was submitted to you. He came up to me afterwards and said I didn't return his phone calls. I don't do those types of things. So if it comes back to the other board members that I don't pick and choose any clients, I'll work for anybody. So I just want the board to understand, I didn't put him in that position. I would have returned any phone call. if he
following
called
up
me.
on that, we have emails that will back Matt's assertion up.
That's all.
Thank you for commenting on that, Matt, and we'll sort of keep it in mind. I don't want to dig any deeper into it
Nope.
since that applicant is no longer here and that's not the matter that we're on the agenda
Yep,
for.
Just
but
want the board to
thank you.
understand where my professionalism and we would work with them.
So tonight here for 119 Bean Road, as staff has just outlined here, the current lot that's in front of you is the purple lot. That is the total area, and at your assessing maps, you guys have it about 10 acres. It comes out to about 9.584 acres as the total size. The owner of the property is the person that sits right in the middle here. It is George and Theresa Hadley. They are longtime Merrimack residents. A client of ours is looking to purchase one lot and build a house out here for them. They are looking to get some cash flow in the retirement age that they are at right now. They asked me to take a look at this. As stated, the majority of this parcel is actually in the floodplain for Babusick Brook. If you look on the plan, there's a couple dash lines, but there's one that goes around the Hadley piece up in here and then comes back out to the road. Basically, everything to the south of that is in the floodplain. Now, on the far left side right here, this is the flood line here, and we actually have a buildable area right here. So the Hadleys had contacted my client to try and subdivide off this one lot here and keep the remaining land because he does a lot of stuff throughout the property and stuff like that. He's been here forever. Once we found out that it was mostly floodplain, it was difficult to get the subdivision application because of the contiguous area and stuff like that. So we went to the zoning board for this lot right here, and we got a variance to allow it at 80,000 square feet instead of 100,000 square feet required, plus or minus. I think it's about 83,000.
That lot is this lower left
This is
one,
this
right?
lower one right here, yes.
Yeah, okay.
As you can see, there's a wetland that kind of bisects this.
Yeah.
So it makes it a nice kind of divide for the lot. The only reason that this lot line is not right down the wetland here is to create frontage on this lot right here for this lot that's there so that it has legal frontage. The three lots that we have at the end of the day is the one up at the top here, which is the bigger lot left, which is about 4.65 acres after the subdivision. The second middle lot in here is approximately 2.604 acres after the subdivision. And the last lot down at the bottom here is going to be about 2.335 acres after the subdivision. So after we'd gone through the subdivision, we also requesting, this is a minor subdivision. I know that staff has said that I didn't need to ask for a waiver, I guess, of sidewalk. I'm asking for a waiver of sidewalk. Nelson on this one here, I can't find any place else that I could tie this in. I'm sorry. Like, I looked on Google's, I looked everything else, but I don't know where I would tie it in if I put a sidewalk. So I'm asking for a waiver, or if the board determines that it's not needed on this one that's here. Why we did these two extra lots as non-buildable right now is two reasons. Number one, like I said, when this came to me, it was that this older couple was looking to try and find some value that they could have as they got older in life and be able to basically live out. If we just kept it all as one loan, sold it to my bill, we put a house on it, the gentleman who builds a house gets all the 10 acres that's with it right now. I think a lot of you guys know there's two things that have happened. Number one, the Mother's Day floods with the Babusick Brook here. If you go south of this, that culvert was redone, bridge was redone during that time frame there. There was no restudy done of the floodplain at that point. We feel pretty comfortable that if anybody comes in and spends between $5,000 and $10,000 and goes through an actual flood study, that it would change the flood location in this location. They could get two buildable residential lots. We all know the prices are going up astronomically. To spend $5 or $10 grand for somebody to do it makes sense. My client doing this bottom one, he's just starting he actually was a KNA employee. He's being a developer himself, so this is kind of, it's too big to take everything down for him. He's looking to take one piece at a time. So that was number one. They could go back and get them buildable at a later date. Number two, we're running into a lot of wetland impacts and parcels that need to replicate the wetland somewhere. This would give him two parcels that he could list as conservation land, open space, that kind of stuff. It allows him to sell them off if somebody comes forward with him. As you know, if a conservation or a group came to him now and said, hey, if you subdivide it, we'll buy it, well, that's $15,000 to $20,000 for him to do. Whereas right now, he's having my client do it, and he's getting his 3 lots. If they come to him at the point in 2 months, 2 years, 3 years, he says, here's a lot, it's non-buildable. Conservation says, hey, we're okay with that, we're just using it for this. It moves it forward. So It was a balance on a couple different things that we were looking at for this specific client and my client that was involved, and this is the end result that we have in front of you here tonight. I think it's pretty straightforward, so I'm gonna kind of leave for comments and questions, and I know these guys would like me to be as quick as I can. They're sitting behind me here, so.
The one thing I would add to Matt's presentation is, yes, currently these lots are considered unbuildable, but there's nothing from a zoning perspective that prevents this subdivision from being presented in the way it is presented. It meets every requirement in terms of frontage, lot size, depth, all the things we'd look for from the zoning standpoint, except for you just can't get a building permit.
Well, except for the floodplain.
But the floodplain is not a determinative factor in terms of being able to plat a lot.
No, but you guys, the floodplain's the reason why we can't get the building permit. That's what
Yeah.
he was saying. You're saying the same thing.
So, Matt, I got a couple of questions.
Yep.
Have you seen the NRPC satellite photo that's in our plan from the GIS? This one?
Probably, because I probably gave it to the staff.
Probably so. It seems to show that the property line follows Babusick Brook and doesn't cross it. To the, I guess that must be east in the way that this map is oriented.
So this is my purple line from up in the wetland, up in the top corner, down to the bottom corner is a tie line. So the boundary goes along the river, and you can see it on our subdivision plan. Is that what you're saying?
So, yes, the property line does not go where the purple line is?
Well, that is a survey tie line from one point of the river to the next point. So we call it as a tie line on the survey plan, so that's why I showed it purple, because I didn't think you would get
Okay.
that technical. But then on the plan, the boundary does follow the brook itself, the backside of the brook.
Okay. How wide is the lot at that narrow point between the pink line and the closest part of the brook?
Right at this location here?
Yeah. I mean, I know it's an unbuildable lot, so it doesn't really matter too much, but
That's 60 feet.
what are the setbacks, side lot setbacks in that zone?
30 feet right here.
All right.
So the buildable area is all in front here. If the floodplain right now, the floodplain's even at all. There's no buildable area.
Okay. But the two side setbacks in there would cross over each other and there wouldn't be any
Between the wetland
envelope.
setback and the side setback, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate the showing the tie line and the explanation. I would think that on final approval, the lot line would be what would be more prominent in bolding or whatever.
It is in the actual plan.
Yeah, boundary line runs 880 feet plus or minus along the thread of the brook. And then what we do is survey line, meets and bounds to tie that.
Okay.
I'm not a surveyor, but that's what they stamped the plan with. so.
Now, the lot that's cut out of your client's lot along Bean Road, where the single-story wood frame house is, also seems to have a different dimension in this tax map thing. It seems to be shallower and a lot wider, and it also seems that there's several structures visible in the satellite that aren't on your plan. Let's see, to the,
You are correct on both of those. That tax map is wrong. The survey that we actually did is what the boundary looks like.
okay.
And then number two, I noticed that today, that there's a pool in their backyard that is not shown on my plan here.
Okay, I saw the pool, and I was also looking at, on what's gonna be the unbuildable lot. Looks
Yep.
like there's some, you have a shed, one shed showing, but it looks like there's a couple of things showing there with a bit of a driveway nearby it. What is that appears on this? Actually, it looks like a home with a driveway and a two-car garage, if I was guessing, but I'm sure that's not what it is.
I would say this aerial is a little bit older here. We picked up the sheds on our plan here, and they're right along the property line and stuff like that. It's just sheds that George has been using for years and years. I think staff said that something had to be addressed on that. I would offer that if George and Teresa were to sell this lot, that those would have to be removed as part of that to the board.
Okay.
It's just his knick-knack woodworking type stuff.
I wasn't really so much thinking one way or another about caring whether it's removed or not removed, as long as it's just shown on the plan
Yep,
as
I've got
being
all those.
present
The
on
only
the
thing I
site.
noticed was the pool when I looked at this aerial.
Yeah. Okay. I had another question, but it slipped my mind. Anybody else have comments or questions on this one?
Well,
Nelson?
Yes, I had a bunch. But you're in an area that I had question also, that these have to be designated as being removed if we're making it a separate lot. We're not approving those sheds and buildings. I was concerned about the individual house lot that's cut out here, that it seems to be, well, part of it is, half of that lot is in the flood zone already. And one of these, you showed a possible leach field location, and it doesn't show the leach field location of that house. And it sounds like that might be in the floodplain too.
Nope.
Huh?
So we've submitted subdivision application to the state. The 4K areas are allowed to be in the floodplain. Those are allowed to get subdivision approval for that. The 4K can be in the floodplain area. And then once we get subdivision approval, which we were hoping to have today, we would submit the septic plan, which we've done here. And you will see that the test pit's the same as if you're looking at the topographic subdivision plan in front of you. That's the same test pit that's shown right up here in this location here. We would put the septic in the front here. The house is shown graded. We don't impact the floodplain at all with it there. It's a 4-bedroom house that he's given us architecturals on and stuff like that, and sits pretty cleanly up in the corner there. So that's the subdivision plan that would go to the state.
Okay, that's that one. Now, the
This is the
lot-
only one we're looking for buildable lot on. The other two are non-buildable right now.
Okay, but what about the existing lot?
That's actually not part of what
That's
we're
not-
subdividing.
It's not part of the subdivision.
Yeah.
It's a
So the
separate.
existing lot right
Just,
now, Nelson, is this undeveloped purple.
No, oops.
6C 142 is already subdivided off and not part of a proposal before us.
Yeah, but where's its where's its septic leach field? Is it in the floodplain, I guess is my question.
It may or may not be, but it's basically a neighbor's lot. It's unassociated with the proposal before us,
Okay.
right, Tim?
Correct.
Yep. This is like asking the guy across the street where his septic system is. It's not before us.
Okay.
Other comments or questions?
Was something else here.
Still have acceptance to deal with.
Thank you for the reminder, Tim. Let's deal with that question. Does anybody have any more information that they need to decide whether it's complete and appropriate for review?
No,
If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the application as substantially complete.
Is there a second for Lynn's motion? Paul has the second. Further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 500 for completeness. Okay, you mentioned
The
a
other
sidewalk
thing the
waiver.
board can do is either act on the waiver for sidewalk or determine it's not necessary under section 4.07.
I forget what our more frequent approach is to this, when it's one
For
of the
minor
other.
subdivisions, you typically, that the general requirements that would be required for a major subdivision would not be applicable, and you just make that determination, which would then nix the sidewalk requirement.
Thank you, Tim, for that. I'm certainly of a mind that a sidewalk is not necessary here in this subdivision, and not
agree.
appropriate.
I would agree. Yeah.
If our usual approach is to, as a part of the overall consideration of the application, determine it's not necessary, then I'd certainly support that particular course of action. Tim, are there other waivers that are involved tonight?
There are not.
Okay. Are there any abutters or interested citizens who wish to weigh in?
Do we vote on that sidewalk?
It's by consensus, and then you incorporate it into the motion to approve.
It's part of the final motion
Okay.
for
Okay.
conditional final approval, potentially. Okay, there are no abutters who wish to weigh in. We'll open and close the public hearing. Members of the board, do you have any further discussion? Do you require any additional information? The staff's recommendation is that we grant conditional final approval tonight.
Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable approving a subdivision with lots that are not buildable. That's a little unusual to me.
Yeah, I saw that and I thought you might think that too. We were having a conversation about that very subject earlier. I understand Tim's view that our regulations don't touch floodplain or use it as a consideration for a buildable lot. I have a feeling that we ought to take some kind of recognition of this fact in a plan note or a condition of approval, as I think that we're begging for a variance request to come say, hey, it's a
Absolutely,
hardship,
yeah.
I can't build on my lot if you don't
Yeah.
let me.
Yeah, we're creating a hardship. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Or they're creating the argument for a hardship. And
I will say,
how I
having
feel
been the
about that.
staff member who sat at that zoning board meeting, it was a topic of discussion, and it was pretty clear to me that the board, as it sits today, would consider that self-created, and would not consider it a valid hardship if their request were to come back. There was a good amount of discussion on that item itself.
That's today's board, yes.
It's
Yeah.
purely based on who's on the board today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is, and things can change, and frankly, if the ZBA wants to grant variances for things, it's their power, no matter what we require for notes. However, I wouldn't mind a note on the plan that says the non-buildable lots were deliberately created.
And again, just to give you a little bit, it's not non-buildable like with a setback, non-buildable with a frontage or something like that. It's in the floodplain, which is gonna cause insurance issues, permitting issues. This needs shoreland permits as well because of the Babusick Brook, so everything that's in the shoreland from here in
Yeah.
needs a shoreland permit. So it's a non-buildable lot, but it meets all your town requirements so that there weren't, I didn't even think about a variance for the floodplain. I don't even know.
I don't know that we'd be able to
I
get,
don't know,
because
like,
there are
yeah, I don't think
specific
I can get that.
criteria, if
I would
I
have asked
may.
for that.
Yeah.
There's specific criteria in the ordinance that's required from the National Flood Insurance
Yeah.
Program regarding variances, and this would certainly not meet those.
I think the other
Yeah.
part of that is that if it's not in our site plan regulations to take up floodplains, then there's nothing to ask for a variance from. So,
But ultimately, I think the non-buildable is a bit of a misnomer. It could be built upon, but it takes a lot of time, effort, and money to make that happen in terms of the insurance and everything else involved. You could, but it's so financially unfeasible that nobody in their right mind would do it.
Until these lots hit
Today.
250.
Yeah, today.
And again, and Matt brought up a great point, and I think if somebody is willing to invest the money to do a study, an engineering study of that floodplain following the installation of the new bridge, I think there would be a significant change in what that floodplain boundary really is today, because it's not constrained by that small culvert that we had back in the day when this was determined, excuse me.
I think that's a fair assessment as well. But to sort of resolve my concern about, future requests for variances, if the obstacle to building is flood insurance and all of that, the ZBA doesn't have the authority to grant waivers from those kinds of flood insurance and federal requirements, state DES shoreland permits. I mean, it's not our constraint, so. Anyway, it is a peculiar thing, though. I don't think that we've done that before.
No.
Right now, I had somebody look at 2 lots, just to give you an example, Babusick Lake. Somebody was looking at 2 lots in Merrimack that are on some road out there, and they're 2 of them, they're 70 by 40 in the floodplain, and I was like, I can't do anything with them, sorry, you can't build on them, you can't meet the town requirements, and that you just can't, that floodplain, you can't really go ask for variances. I didn't have any other options that I could have thought of, so I wasn't creating something that would have gone back and asked for the variance for the floodplain, no.
Yeah.
And I got no problem with notes on the plan. They were created non-buildable based on the floodplain that's there, created by the applicant, whatever ties you to it.
We'll work out the wording, because I don't like putting the word not buildable on a subdivision plan.
Yeah, and actually, if it's something that could be cured in a way unrelated to the town's regulations, unbuildable isn't the correct word for it. It's got some development constraints.
The 2
but
lots are limited by floodplain constraints.
Something like that.
Something to the effect that the applicant understands that lots X and Y are constrained by current floodplain requirements and would require significant either revisions to the floodplain determination or other mechanisms to be developed in the future. Something like that.
You'd be okay putting that note on the plan?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this is an older couple trying to have some ability to have a couple lots, and again, there's plenty of lots that aren't buildable around that, you know, nobody goes back and asks for a variance if it's that egregious and you can't. So no,
Yeah,
I
they
don't have a
do.
problem with working with that.
I mean, they're not created on purpose, but yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I can't make it in the setback, I don't have a building envelope, I don't
No,
have
I
whatever,
agree that, but I
so-
have what I'm getting at this one here, I have building setbacks and all that. If the variance I would have asked for is what I'm getting at. I was
Yeah.
not trying to
Yeah.
circumnavigate this point on that, is all I'm trying to
All
say.
right. So, board members, we've completed the public hearing, we've got no waiver requests. It's up to you to decide whether you wish to proceed to a final determination, or look for more information, or do whatever it is that you feel like you want to do for direction.
I would move that we grant final approval, subject to the conditions in the staff memo and the addition of the comments on the plan.
Second.
Motion and a second.
That motion also includes the determination that waivers aren't necessary under section 4.07?
Yes, it does.
Thought so, that's what I heard.
Which one was that?
That's the sidewalk.
Sidewalk.
Oh, yeah.
Sidewalk and a few other things, but
Sidewalk.
the other things are provided, so.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 500 for the most unusual subdivision that I've seen in a
come
while.
Yeah.
Bad unusual. Okay, thank you. Take that.
Yeah,
Thank
maybe
you
it's
guys.
not
Have a
the
great
most
night.
unusual. I've seen some funky shaped flag lots and things,
I
but
must say, welcome back to the late nights again and stuff.
yes, good to be here in person. Good to be here. And Matt, have no concern about the reputation of your firm. It is stellar.
I just want you to know I didn't.
Ouch.
The whiteout was a dead giveaway.
At least they didn't wipe out a signature. Item 7, 57 to 59 Daniel Webster Highway, Merrimack LLC. Applicant and owner, review for acceptance and consideration of a site plan to construct a 100,700 square foot manufacturing building and construct a 66,000 square foot manufacturing addition to the existing 449,500 square foot warehouse building. The parcels are located at 57 to 59 Daniel Webster Highway in the I-1 Industrial and Aquifer Conservation Districts, Tax Map 2E, Lot 6 and 6-1, Case Planning Board 2021-19. Tim, is there anything that we need to know before we hear from the applicant?
You won't be hearing from the applicant because they're requesting a
Yep.
continuance to July 6th for both the acceptance and public hearing, so they can address the items I raised in my staff memo.
Excellent, thank you for that. What's the will of the board with respect to the applicant's request?
I
Louise has-
move we continue this to
July
the
6th.
July 6th meeting with no further notice.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to continue to July 6th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 500. Okay. Item 8 on our agenda, Chris Quinn on behalf of Chase Bank as the applicant and CP Merrimack LLC as the owner. Review for acceptance and consideration of final approval of a waiver of full site plan review to construct a freestanding drive-up ATM. The parcel is located at 7 Continental Boulevard in the I-1 Industrial and Aquifer Conservation Districts and the Wellhead Protection Area. Tax Map 3D, Lot 31, Case Planning Board 2021-20. Tim, is there anything we need to know before we hear from the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a relatively straightforward waiver, full site plan. This is the Shaw's Plaza on Continental Boulevard. The proposal is to put a small drive-up ATM as essentially a pad site, not too far from the Dobson Way driveway, so to speak, near the McDonald's portion of the area. The applicant has the plans here. There are a number of items in Casey's memo. The one thing we wanted to bring to the board's attention is a discrepancy between the approved plan indicating 376 parking spaces and the applicant's plan showing 361 following the construction, even though they're only eliminating 4 spaces. So we are hoping that the applicant will be able to clarify the discrepancy as part of the conditions of approval to ensure that the parking count is accurate out there for the most recent plan being submitted here.
Thank you for that, Tim. Before we hear from the applicant, I just want to note for the record that I and my firm represent some of the tenants in this strip mall area and have reviewed leases for them and done other related work. Doesn't have anything to do with this applicant and has no financial interest in this applicant, and therefore doesn't, in my view, represent a conflict. But I do want to make sure that that's noted for the record. That in mind, you're up.
Good evening, everybody. So I think everything's pretty straightforward in your report.
Name and address for the record.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Chris Quinn is my name. I'm with TKO Installations here on behalf of Chase Bank and JLL. The address of the project,
7 Continental Boulevard.
thank you, which is also known as Merrimack Village Center. So we are here requesting a waiver of full site plan review, as well as a waiver on the parking, which kind of morphed into as part of the original request.
Thank you. Tim, is this an amendment of an approved site plan?
No, we're considering it a new plan simply because it's adding a pad site to the existing. It could have been done as an amendment, however, the effort to do that and to select out the appropriate sheets from the original plan set versus doing this as a waiver full site plan, we believe was the most expeditious and inexpensive way for the applicant to go through the process.
All right, thanks, Tim.
Okay. So I will give you a quick rundown of the actual project itself. And here we've got the site plan, which shows the actual ATM, the new ATM location is in the north corner of the parking lot, outlined in a black dashed line. And I think you're all familiar with the lot itself. Off to the right, to the east would be where the McDonald's is, and then the other mall buildings surround it to the west and to the south. And I will go to our blow-up of the actual layout. The entire area is about 800 square feet that we're affecting. And let me zoom in on this. So we've got an existing end cap here with some foliage, just some plantings, some mulch. We are proposing to consume 4 parking spaces just adjacent. 2 of the parking spaces will make up the actual ATM, the island, some striping associated with it. We'll show you the elevations next, and I'll show you all the elements of the island itself. And then the 2 spaces to the right would be turned into basically a drive lane to approach, transact, and depart from the ATM. The ATM itself, let me zoom out here. Here we've got some elevations of the actual configuration, and I will start with the front elevation. And you're gonna be approaching the ATM from the left, traveling toward the right. The first item you see here is a vehicle height detector bar. The next item would be a light pole on a concrete pedestal. The next item would be in gray is a canopy that provides a little bit of coverage for when the transactions are taking place from rain. The center would be where the ATM, or excuse me, centered on the canopy is where the ATM would be located. And as you depart the island, there is a meter pedestal that contains the meter and some circuit breakers that control power, lighting, and so forth on the ATM.
Where are those? I'm sorry. Show me those things you're talking about, these meters.
Okay, well, first, the VHD is right here that I'm circling. That's a vehicle height detector. The next is the light pole.
Yeah.
The gray is the canopy.
Uh-huh.
The center here is the ATM.
Yeah.
The meter pedestal is here. It's kind of hidden behind one of the bollards. And all of the blue elements are traffic bollards that we put decorative covers over, blue decorative covers. So the meter pedestal, if I slide over, oh, I did that wrong.
What does this meter do?
All it is it's a
Electric meter.
But it's a special, it's a all self-contained unit, color painted to match. It just gives it a better look and a very nice, clean look.
What does it do?
An electric meter?
It's for the power company to measure how
It's
much
the-
electricity is gonna be used.
Oh, just provides power to the ATM?
It's the power meter, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It contains the power meter, and
Okay.
within, there's also a circuit breaker panel in there. So they have the ability to kill power.
And the illustration on the right-hand side is a side view
Here is the side.
of, right there.
So the meter pedestal, you'll see the little circle, that would be basically your glass meter head. They come in varieties, some are a square head, but it's a very nice unit. It's color matched to the canopy. Very, very nice for a meter, instead of a post with the glass on it.
One of the things I think that when we were reviewing this as staff, that we noticed is these are more typically more of an architectural plan than they are a site plan.
Yeah.
So it's a little different than what we're typically used to seeing, which is part of Casey's memo.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's, even the little bit that is the site plan doesn't give us the whole site,
No.
doesn't give us the whole boundary. Go ahead.
I'll show you the other elevation. This would be the approach elevation. And again, you're just seeing the canopy, the bollards, and the ATM, an image of the ATM behind it. I do believe, did we not have the whole site? I may have another plan that includes it. Let me see. I know we do have our setbacks and boundary lines in that general area are included.
This being a waiver of full site plan review, as long as the board is comfortable with it, I have no problem with a reference back to the original site plan that contains the full site boundary, given the minor nature of this application.
This might give a little better view of the site, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think including that one in your plan set, just to give the whole, I agree with Tim that we're potentially waiving full site plan review, and that can include a whole bunch of things, but if you add that plan into your set, it includes a whole lot less things in your waiver of full site plan review.
We certainly can. We do have, and again, there was a site plan
Yeah.
in our architectural set, but it was clipped back a little. So we can certainly include the entire site.
Yeah.
So it's pretty basic, pretty simple. I don't know if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you for the presentation. So the first order of business is determining whether the application is complete and contains enough information to inform a decision. What's the will of the board?
So
So
moved,
moved.
Mr. Chairman.
So moved, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay. It is a request for a waiver of full site plan review, and there's not really a whole lot more to it other than what we've been presented to us. Do you, board members, wish to take up that waiver, or go through the exercise of hearing me open a public hearing and then close it real fast, or what's your preference? Are there any abutters or interested citizens who wish to weigh in? Okay, so we've done our public hearing bit.
Yeah, I think the majority of Casey's comments are just adding some typical plan notes that we'd expect to see. There's nothing earth-shattering. I don't expect that we will likely see comments from any of the departments that are listed here.
Have you had a chance to see the staff's memo with all the comments that Casey made?
Absolutely, and we have no issue with.
No issue with any of
no
them?
issue
Good,
with any.
that helps. Okay. All right, board members, potential waiver of full site plan review, what say you?
I had one question, real quick. I know, Tim, when I spoke with you earlier, I mentioned the snow storage on the site. Will you, staff be handling that? Because I know that's where they put it now.
Yeah, we can add, or we can, through the final, what I would suggest is, why don't we do this with item number 9 in the proposed conditions, which, why don't we add the overview site plan being added to the plan set?
Okay. Okay. I know it's a small
Yeah,
detail, but
It
I
is a small
just-
detail, and just notation of relocation of snow storage.
So, Tim, what do we need to resolve with this question about parking spaces, et cetera?
It's just a matter of double checking the math to make sure that what the applicant has submitted is what's actually there, because our records indicate more parking is there than what they're indicating.
Okay.
Neither-
So that's something you're comfortable having the staff
Yeah,
resolve?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. I am too. I think that the site is one where our previous parking calculation generated a large number of parking spaces necessary for the site, which generally don't get used, which is why a lot of them are available for snow storage. And using a half a dozen of them to put in an ATM, I mean, not that many, 4, I think you said.
4. Total of
To
4.
put in an ATM. An ATM is certainly a useful thing to have in that location, so why object to it? But the parking is not an issue on that site. There's tons and tons and tons of it. I kind of wish we hadn't paved the world over there. Other folks with comments or questions about parking? You're comfortable with sort of leaving it to staff to determine? I just want there to be a number of record, so
Yeah,
that
we
if we
should
ever
have
have to come
an
back.
agreed upon number
Yeah.
that goes with the site, right?
So the staff will work that out, and whatever it is will be indicated on the approval or in the plan with that. With the addition of the overview site plan that we just saw, are we comfortable with a waiver of full site plan review? Somebody please make a motion to that effect if we are. Motion to waive full site plan review. Which statutory criteria are you relying on for the waiver?
The site,
This site, that's the first one, Tim?
Yep.
Specific circumstances?
correct.
Yep. And Paul, you're offering a second? Okay. All in favor of granting waiver of full site plan review, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 500 to do that. Board members, are you prepared to take final action on the proposal?
I have one recommendation.
Please.
I would like to add some painted arrows in the vicinity to show which way you go through this thing on the asphalt. Just, there's arrows shown here, but I don't think those are really part of the site plan. I think they're, was it intended that you,
Let me zoom in on that a little
Pardon?
bit. They're yellow.
I believe they are intended to be painted on the pavement.
They're yellow on the drawing. And so as in the direction of travel, you'll see there's one arrow here.
If you scroll up, there's a leader leading right to that arrow. I bet you if you
okay, I didn't see those on my plan.
And although they are yellow, they will be white in.
Can you scroll up slightly on the plan to see what that leader to the arrow says? Oh, there you go. That directional arrow and text to be shown, yep, 2K, it will be put on the plan. It is to be painted on the side.
100%,
Yep.
that is part of the project. There's a stop, do not enter,
Yeah,
here.
those
There's
don't
a stop
show,
sign that goes in here.
they don't show up on,
Yeah, the photocopy may not have gotten through the color.
no, okay.
If you
just
got
be-
some extra people in your car, you can't go backwards anyway. Can't reach the ATM out the wrong window. But they're painted on there, so, okay.
Okay, I didn't see them in my,
I didn't either until you
Yeah.
pointed it out.
Yeah.
Wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Is the board prepared to take final action on the plan?
The motion would include the 2 additional things of the overview plan and the note on relocating the snow storage.
okay.
Motion, anybody?
I will,
Go ahead,
Nelson?
okay, I will so move that we approve this modification to the existing site plan with the addition of the 2 comments that Tim suggested.
And the conditions in the memo.
Yeah.
Lynn,
and
were
the
you second?
Yeah, all
That was my
conditions
second.
of them.
Okay, motion and second by Nelson and Lynn. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? 500 to grant conditional final approval. All right,
Thank
you're all
you.
set. You'll
Thank
get
you
a
very
letter
much.
from them.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your patience.
No, it's okay.
Yes, thank you for your patience and for
Yeah.
They always are.
turning into a long-ish night.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, this hasn't been terrible. Okay, that is all of the regular items on our agenda. We are up to item 9 with the discussion and possible action regarding other items of concern.
We have 3
There-
extension requests.
Yes, 3 of our previously granted, in this case, site plan reviews are all at the end of the time period for their meeting their conditions of approval and have requested extensions. The first one is the Ultimate Bimmer site plan, which is the BMW, the used BMW dealer and repair facility on, what, Herrick Road or something?
Herrick Street, yep.
Herrick Street. And they're looking for what, 6
I would
months?
recommend 6 months.
To extend their conditions of approval for 6 months.
Mhm.
Any comments, questions? Is there a motion?
I will so move.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, 500. The second one is Bowers Landing 2, Phase 7 site plan.
Problem, yeah.
Is looking for an extension. Tim, how much time did they?
That one is
request?
specifically requesting 6 months, which staff supports.
Request for a 6-month extension of their conditions of approval. What's the will of the board?
Second.
Is there a motion and a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 500. And the other one is this Sheehan Finney letter?
Correct. That one is for the PMG Northeast. That's the redevelopment of the gas station at the corner of Continental and Camp Sargent Road. And again, staff would recommend 6 months.
Okay, so that's the little Citgo gas station there, the older one.
Yes.
6-month request for an extension. What's the will of the board?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 500 to grant that. Are there any other discussion items that any board member would like to bring to the attention of the board? None? Tim, am I forgetting anything?
Not that I can think of. But
All right.
I'm at the end of a really long day, so.
Yes,
Aren't we all?
I know
Yeah.
what you mean. My day is not over yet. I've got more homework.
Oh, me too, because I've got to take my son to driver's ed for a drive tomorrow morning, so I got to get all the decision letters and results done before I leave here tonight.
Oh, boy. Is 16? He's learning how to drive.
Yes, we have already scheduled his written test for Monday. He should have his last drive in on Saturday.
Awesome. Good luck to him.
We're trying to get him done before he goes off to his first job working at summer camp this year, so,
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Good.
Good luck to him.
thank you.
And to you. Hope your heart and stress level.
It's, the stress level's fine because he's a fantastic driver. The stress level is the insurance change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
16-year-old male, that's not a good thing for insurance,
yeah. I've just.
especially
split my
one
third
who has a disability.
Oh, boy. Good luck to you on that.
Thank you.
I'm not in charge of your raise. You'll have to talk to somebody else.
That's already been passed, the generosity of the voters, so thank you.
Ah, excellent. Okay. Item 10 on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of May 18, 2021. What is the will of the board?
I would move to approve the minutes as submitted, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If there's none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? One abstention. 401 with Lynn Christensen abstaining.
Normally I watch, but this time I didn't see this one,
Fair enough. Okay,
so I was
that
otherwise occupied.
concludes the last item of business. Is
I
there a
move we
motion to
adjourn.
adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 500. Someday I'm gonna like vote no on a motion to, just to see what everybody's face looks like.
What the ramifications are when you leave the building.
Well, it's not gonna carry the vote. It'd just be.